We had a great weekend. We're going to dive into today's session, which is all about finding and winning buyers. I think this is probably by far one of the most valuable Ignite sessions. And I'm going to build in some time to go through my buyer consultation with you, what I've used in the past, the PowerPoint, how I go through the forms, the scripts I use to get people to sign, the contract agreement, all that fun stuff. So that should hopefully be pretty valuable for you as well. But before we dive into that, let's push through our content. And as always, I want to know how the daily 10-4 activities are coming. If they're coming at all. Any success stories? Anybody, how'd your meeting go with
I've had two. So that last week I met with Jordan. That went well. He's with a big management company over here, property management.
Okay.
God, he was talking. They have 6,000 units, and I think he's in charge of about 700.
Good guy to know.
And I said, "Wow, Jordan." So yeah, he's doing good. You know, he's got taking tests, trying to move up. But yeah, he's a good guy to know.
Okay.
Nice guy.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I've been starting to talk to some builders too,
Okay.
because I want to also continue with the building side of things.
Did your offer get accepted from last week?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Too easy. Anybody else? Anything good? Yeah.
I had a meeting on Sunday yesterday with that guy I found on Craigslist.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
And he had a duplex. I said, well, I might be interested, but I'm more interested in working with you.
Sure.
Went on and on. This guy took a grand tour. Oh, yeah? Yeah, and he did a good job with the house. Problem is, he's too high. And I told him that over the phone when I talked to friends with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got talking. He's a used car guy. He has a used car lot in the garage, and he wants to sell that too commercially. So I said, well, let's go take a look at it. Well, he's high in that stuff too. So he's had realtors in the past that haven't done much for him, from what I can tell.
Okay.
Again, if you want the world for something, you know, it's hard to bring something to the table. So
Yeah.
and then he started beating me up on my price and
On your commission or on price?
on my commission.
Did I break something? Oh my goodness. That's probably a benefit. No, I'm just kidding.
And I gave him the spiel. And I said, well, listen, these other folks are willing to drop their commission. You know, what are you going to do with your money?
Boom! That's a script we learned on Friday, right?
And it was a good script.
I can't take credit
And
for
he,
it.
and he agreed.
Yeah.
And so we're going to meet again. But he is tall on this price. So
Yeah. On the duplex?
both, I think.
Both.
Yeah. But then here's the thing. I said, you know, as an investor, this is where you need it. I said, if it were me, I'm just not interested in that price. And he didn't disagree with me.
Sure.
But there's a house down the street that, and I drove by it, and I agree with him. It's not as nice as his. He's done a good job with it. But they got close to what he's asking. He's asking a little bit more, but he's got a brand new garage. And I don't disagree with him, but I'm surprised that this house got as much as they say it did. And I could not move him off that. I said, listen, you know, you can, first of all, how serious are you about selling?
Sure.
At this price, you can listen here, but the odds of you selling are not great.
Right.
Not that you couldn't find that one person. In the car business, we always said there's a fanny for every seat, right?
Yeah.
And I said that to him, but I said, but realistically, and he's been at it for a couple of years, and he kept talking about this other house. He said, well, this one sold, you know, last year for this. I said,
There may be a fanny for every seat or a person for every home, but the other big caveat is at the right price.
that's right.
Mhm.
At the right price. Now, is it sold or
It's sold.
So you know what it sold for, you know if seller contributed closing costs.
I have not gone up and,
Because here's what happens with a lot of sellers. They remember what a house was listed for. They know it sold, and they just assume that it sold for what it was listed for, when in reality, we all know that's not the case sometimes, right? So that might be something that's additional relevant information for him in particular, but I'll get to you in just a second, Bob. The key thing there is you made a contact, you built some rapport, and if you stay in touch with one another, and if he truly has motivation and you're staying in touch with them, I mean, you've got a great shot at that business, which is 2 transactions really,
yes,
which is pretty phenomenal.
3 actually. I mean, there's a business and land, and then there's an empty lot, so there's,
There you go.
yeah.
So that's somebody I would constantly stay in touch with. I would revisit, engage his motivation, and just continue to provide him updates on the market. Hey man, this is where I think you need to be valued. Keep his property on a short list of properties that you know about, that if you come across a potential buyer, you can have a conversation
For
with.
sure, and we talked about that too. I said,
Yeah.
if I can find something.
The that's a great illustration, Ben, of just going on the appointments. If you have enough appointments, you start uncovering opportunities like that, and then you're going to be able to start bringing transactions together. If you're consistently going out and meeting folks like that.
Yeah, he says he's got his knowledge, he's got a stack. Some from other realtors.
Yeah. How many actually came and met with them?
Well, that's just it. And then the person he had listed with before, she hasn't come back to contact, and he mentioned this, and I'm surprised she isn't.
Yeah, see, exactly. It's follow, and here's what happens. We take a listing that we know is probably not going to sell. It doesn't sell, and now we're embarrassed, or we don't want to reach out to or talk to or run into that person again, so we never do. So don't put yourself in that situation. Take listings at prices you know are going to be in line with the market, and stay on that constant communication. So thanks for sharing. I think that's
But
awesome.
I mean, if he says, yeah, I'm on a list with you, but I know that price.
You just use the same thing as he uses a car person and say, well, it doesn't go. What we have to do, right?
And I would say that the commercial property, I would treat a little bit different than the residential, right? Sometimes you got to do the best you can to figure out where it should be valued. You put it on and you see how the market reacts to it. It might take a little bit more time to monitor it. And then with the residential property, I mean, that one should be fairly open and shut. Now, if he's willing to list somewhere within the realm of reason, you can take it with the understanding and the expectation that, hey, if we don't see anything, the course of action I would recommend is price corrections or reductions. If he's open to that, then ultimately you can help him move that property.
And one more question. I think on the commercial property, a land contract on that, I've seen them actually more times than not go bad.
Sure.
But I think it's more realistic for him to get off this is maybe look at that option. I don't know if I should mention that to him. From a tax standpoint, it makes more sense too, but I think just more risk there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and helping explain the options to him, let him know what he can do, and all the various things that he should consider and look into is just ways in which you kind of add value to him and make him realize, hey, Ben's probably the guy I need to go with if I decide to pull the trigger.
Yeah. It's outside of West Salem. And so he lives in West Salem and the commercial properties outside of West Salem. So, yeah.
I mean, you guys are cross right there.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. And West Salem's growing.
Bob, you had your hand up earlier?
I was just talking to a lot of people, last week and over the weekend. We get 115 passengers a week, so it's pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But one guy I was talking to this morning, he's got some land out near Simpson.
Okay.
And I don't know who to talk to. It's like a farm.
Farm type property?
Yeah, he's got 40 acres, but he wants to, how many buildings he can have on 4 acres and then 10. Because he's thinking of selling some of it off, for someone to buy and build a home. So I don't know who to talk to.
Sure. Now, a couple people come to mind for me. If it's like a farm and ranch land type of a deal, I talk with Tamra in her office. I would consult with Jim as well. And then if there's potential builder opportunities, I talk with Tim O'Connor. Okay. Yeah, those are the folks that I would just seek out some advice and ask them a couple questions.
I told him, I have no idea, but as I can find out if there's somebody around here said run across that before.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Awesome. Page 5, today's expectations, the things that we're going to be focusing on. And first off, are my page numbers lining up the same? Yep. Okay, perfect. We're going to talk about finding buyers, qualifying and scheduling them for consultations, educating buyers, setting service expectations, learn and practice our consultations. Learn and practice is going to be when I do it for you. You can kind of see how I go about it, then you guys can implement the tactics that I utilize in the consultation if you choose to do so. Big one, number 5, I would circle and start, ask for the buyer's agreement to be signed. That's going to be critical. That's crucial. And if you do the consultation the way we kind of teach you, that won't be an issue for you. And last but not least, establish the next steps for once you get that consultation completed and they agree and sign to work with you. Okay, page number 9. I want to go right into a couple of scripts that you could consider, especially when it comes to renters. Because we know in Rochester specifically, really just in general, no matter kind of where you are, rental rates are what right now? They're very, very high. They've been that way for several years. Often, in many cases, people can buy and own homes for just as much, if not maybe even less, than what they would have to pay in rent. right? Now, obviously, there's a couple of factors that at play here. First off, you need to be qualified to get a mortgage and purchase a property. But that being said, there are plenty of renters out there, especially your renters here in Rochester, who would have no problem qualifying, right? So what are some conversations we can have with them to help them realize that home ownership might be a good option for them, right? Not convincing them, but just educating them about some options so they can make the decision themselves. So your first script is toward the top of page 9. Hi, my name is Zach Keller-Williams. I was wondering if you'd consider buying a home for yourself or your family sometime in the near future. Owning a home is a goal for most people and continues to be a good investment. Have you ever wondered about the costs and the process to get into a home of your own? I found that some people don't think they can afford to buy their own home, that they may be able to buy a home for almost the same amount as they're paying in monthly rent. I'd love to sit down with you, explain the process of owning your home. It's no obligation. Would you at least have 15 minutes to maybe chat about it, right? That's the kind of thing. I mean, you could take that message, tweak it, and market it on a large scale and hold seminars specifically geared toward I'm gonna hit renters. I know where they live. I know their addresses. I just have to find a few different rental units in town, right? Hit them on a consistent basis. Hold seminars and say, hey, if you ever have any thoughts about buying a house, you got questions about it, you want to know what that process looks like, come on in. There are a ton of advantages to owning versus renting. We'd love to talk to you about it, right? That's a fairly easy script to do. And the takeaway on that is, yeah, some people, they don't think that they can afford to buy a home, and in reality, they meet that threshold pretty easily, right? They just, for whatever reason, don't think that they can make it happen. Have you ever heard the term or the phrase, the American dream? Do you actually know what that is? What does the American dream refer to? To home ownership. It refers to a lot of things, but primarily the phrase the American dream is associated with owning a home, the ability to buy property, right? So when you think about that, a lot of people, it's a goal theirs to get into a home someday and have those conversations and educate them about what it would take to do that, and the process is very helpful. Okay, second script. Hi, my name is Zach Keller-Williams. Wondering, this one's a little bit more forward. Wondering when you'll be ready to stop paying your landlord and start paying yourself. May I explain? I help people buy homes. I found that a lot of people don't think they can afford to buy their own home, and that they may be able to buy a home for almost the same amount as you pay a monthly rent. I'd love to sit down, explain to you the process, etc. Right? So this one is more of an equity discussion, right? Hey, let's talk about finances a little bit and see what makes more sense. Would it make more sense to be paying off a property that you own, you can eventually sell, or does it make more sense for you to just continue to pay your rent and never see that money again, right? But the way that you have that conversation, you want to be a little bit delicate and professional about it. You don't just want to say, why in the world would you keep renting? That's the stupidest thing ever, right? You think you're going to get far with that? With some people, maybe. But with others, it's figuring out how can we be a little bit more delicate about that. Hey, would you like to establish equity in an investment in an asset that you could sell later on, versus just continuing to spend money that you really won't have anything to show for if you rent it for 5 years, right? In this kind of market, if you buy a property, you pay the mortgage and you go to sell it in 5 years with the kind of average appreciation we're seeing, it's going to work 10 times better than having a rental, right? But why might somebody decide to rent instead of buy? Exactly. Brad hit the nail on the head. They might just be here for a short stint, right? If I'm talking with somebody and they say, well, we're probably only going to be here about a year or two, well, then I think to myself, okay, yeah, renting might be a good option for me. Why is that?
Well, it depends upon if you can't get enough equity into your home that you buy.
It has a lot to
You're
do.
going
It has a lot to
backwards
do
when
with,
you sell, 2
absolutely.
years versus forward.
It has a lot to do with equity and appreciation. I know if you buy a property in a year or two, if you go to sell it, you'd probably be lucky to break even with the cost of sale. When you factor in appreciation, right? Depending upon the property. If you're going to be here for more than 2 years, we could probably do fairly well on it. You might. I'm more confident that you'll at least break even. You could probably make you a few $1,000 if you're going to be here for 3 years or more, right? But it's that 1 to 2 year mark. I'm kind of let's have a conversation. Or the conversation switches to this. Okay, if you're only going to be here for 1 to 2 years, if we can find you a great deal on a property and you do move, would you give any consideration to keeping the property here as an income investment property? Right? Then they realize, oh, well, that's not a bad idea, actually. Okay, great. Well, let's do that. And then when you move out of here, you've got a nice little income property, right? Okay, there's a newlyweds script at the bottom of page 9. Take a peek at it. You can utilize that one if you want to. I think it's a little bit creepy, a little bit forward. Hey, Susan, congrats, heard you got married. Have you guys thought about buying a house, right? Well, you know. Page 10, get your head in the game. Clearly establishing the process of finding and buying a home and working with your buyer as a coordinated team is the best way to work effectively and efficiently to close as many buyers as possible. Working with buyers is relatively simple, inexpensive, and quick. I would highlight that last sentence. Working with buyers is relatively simple, inexpensive, and quick. I love the inexpensive part. And I would caveat in parentheses after quick, it can be, right? Because it can also be the opposite of that if you don't set the appropriate expectations and manage that process, right? But I'll tell you right now, I love working with buyers. I absolutely love it. There's a lot of people out there that poo-poo working with buyers. Oh, God, go on showings, this, that, and the other. But here's what I'll tell you right now. Buyers, when you help them out, they're pretty darn appreciative, right? Not all sellers, even when you get the job done, are super appreciative, right? Because at the end of the day, they're spending money, right? But buyers, man, you do right by them. You take great care of them. You're going to have clients for life. They're going to refer the heck out of you, and they're going to be super appreciative, which means they're going to be, you know, referring machines for you, which is critical. Finding buyers is simple. It's not hard to find buyers to work with. They visit open houses, look for properties online, et cetera, et cetera. Number 2, servicing buyers is inexpensive. Now, why do we say servicing buyers versus obviously servicing listings is a little bit less expensive?
You don't have the cost of advertising.
You don't have the additional investment or the cost of, you know, photos, signage, flyers, putting it online, advertising it, etc. Right? Which, oh, by the way, if you do on a property that doesn't sell, what does that just do for your business?
It just costs you money.
It costs you money. I mean, maybe, hopefully, maybe your advertising at least got your name out as well. But if you're investing in the marketing of properties that don't sell, well, that's a losing strategy, right? Versus if you work with buyers and they ultimately don't buy, or maybe they decide to buy a year or 2 later, well, you cost yourself some time. You could argue you cost yourself some hard costs in terms of, you know, gas and stuff like that. But really, it's not going to cost you. There's really no hard costs other than some time that you really invest. You know what I mean? So there's that to think about as well. The more time-consuming than costly, apart from the gas you'll put in your car to show homes, your expenses will be low. Earning with buyers is quick. Again, it can be. If you do it right in a great buyer transaction, you can help that person find a home and write an offer in 1 day. All right? That's the magical, elusive unicorn buyer. No, I'm just kidding. It does exist every so often. They're few and far between, but if you hit somebody, they're motivated, you take them out right away, you can lock them up pretty quickly. Working efficiently with buyers is your key to generating income quickly. But here's the crucial part. Converting your buyer lead to a signed buyer agreement is as important in the process. Each step of the process requires you to build and cultivate the relationship. If you want to build a highly effective, efficient buy-side business, you need to master the consultation and the scripts that come with it. Taking my business and moving it toward the buyer consultation and systematizing it and mastering it and just nailing it is the first thing that doubled my real estate business, hands down, doubled it. Because of the focus and the system and the follow-up that we brought to the business with the consultation and the commitment when we got people to sign contracts with us. I came from a company that didn't trade on that and didn't talk about it. I didn't know what buyer rep agreements really were. I think they were part of my checklist. So at the time of writing a purchase agreement, we signed one, right? As opposed to, hey, we're meeting for the first time. Here's the process, everything you need to know. What questions do you have? Okay, now you're going to sign this buyer rep agreement to allow me to work for you, right? Completely changed my business because before I didn't really have a bunch of commitment and loyalty. I was just kind of doing things here or there. Whereas as soon as we started using the consultation process, they had commitment to me, and I found that really kind of helped, you know, give me commitment to them, which allowed us to kind of shepherd them through that process and really gauge that motivation, and just skyrocketed us. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I go through the consultation form. Okay, page 11. Make it happen. Converting buyer leads. Working with buyers can be fun and exciting, touring houses and helping them find their next dream home. The process of working with buyers can be refined to 3 steps. Find the buyer, qualify them, sign them. Those are the only 3 things you need to focus on first. Find them, qualify them, and sign them. Why is it so important that those 3 things come first before you're even out showing them properties?
It's your time.
Because Brad, if they're not qualified and haven't signed with you, you could potentially be wasting a ton of time showing them properties. I'm speaking from experience. Speaking from experience on that. Find them, qualify them, and sign them. And oh, by the way, you're doing them a favor because you're doing things in the right order from a customer perspective as well. They need to know what they're getting into. They need to get qualified. They need to know what the next steps are, expectations, etc. If you just take somebody right off into showings, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing them a disservice as well, right? So do it right from the very beginning. Find buyers. Remember, your #1 job is lead generation. In this case, it's lead generating for buyers. After all, you can work with buyers. You can't work with them if you don't have them. Okay, here are a couple statistics. 88% of buyers purchase their home through a real estate agent. The vast majority of people are using realtors to buy properties. Okay, it's easy. One of the beautiful things about our industry is that we've taken that expense off the buyers, right? You would be crazy, and I say this, and I would say this to a room full of the general public, you would be crazy not to use a realtor to help you buy your home. Why? Because they're free. Why would you not use a professional when you could use them for free? I'm trying to think of some other areas in life where I could use those services of a professional for free. None are coming to mind right now. I'm sure if I thought hard enough, I could think of something. 40% of buyers found their agent through a referral from family or friends. Let me interpret that. About half of the people out there are using an agent because they were referred to them by a family member or a friend. So let me go all the way back to like day 1. Remember when I talked to you about your database and building your database and calling all your people and dropping all those referral seeds and planting them everywhere? It's because half of the people that will work with you and I in this room come from referrals. So the more people you have relationships with, the more people you use that referral script with on a consistent basis will increase the amount of business that you do, right? Half of people using somebody because they were recommended to them. So be the agent that's encouraging people to recommend you. 12% of buyers use an agent they had used in the past. What's the takeaway on that one? Nearly 10% of people, only roughly 10% of people reuse their same agent. What's the takeaway?
Didn't follow up.
Yeah, well, either that or that agent just did a terrible job and I never wanted to use them again. The follow-up statistic to that is about 80 to 90% of people would use their same agent again. They just can't remember who they are. Right? So looking at both of those statistics is crucial. If 80 to 90% of people would reuse the same agent, but only 12% do, what's the disconnect?
Lack of communication.
Lack of communication, lack of follow-up. Here's the deal. Those agents, they didn't have a database. They did not have a database that they were consistently staying engaged with. I know it gets boring. I know I'm talking database stuff and it's 2018, but your business will live and die by your database. Right? That 12% of people would have used the same agent again had the agent stayed in touch through being very strategic and purposeful when it comes to their database. Right? But what happens with most agents? What happens? We do a deal and then what happens?
We'll get busy with the next deal.
Yeah, that's it. Susan, congrats, we closed today. Bam, I gotta go cash my commission check. Peace. Best of luck to you in life. Maybe or maybe I'll see you around. I don't know. Right? There's no communication plan after the closing. We talked about that last week where he said, Zach, you're missing a whole portion of your timeline. That's right, because it's infinite. It goes on till the day I die, right? The post-closing game plan for communication, interaction, repeat business, referral business, all that fun stuff. Do not be that agent that I've been in the past, it still happens on occasion, that finds out somebody bought or sold without me when it should have been easy slam dunk for me if I had stayed in touch. because there's nobody else to blame but us as the agent. It's not our client's fault if they don't reuse us. It's not their fault. It's our fault for not staying in touch and encouraging them to, right? 9% found an agent visiting open house. Does that statistic surprise you? Does it not surprise you? What are your thoughts on that one? Nearly 1 out of 10 people find their agent by walking through an open house.
Well, 40% get referrals, so those people that are not getting referred, they're gonna kind of flounder out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's take that 40. So between open houses and referrals, that's how half the people out there are finding their agent. I would wager another portion of that percentage that's not factored into that initial 50% is just random online stuff, right? So if you're not doing random online stuff and you're not doing open houses, and you are relying upon repeat or referral business, right? Or you can increase. I tell you this right now, that 10% of people coming through an open house, you can't take that each individual agent and say, so yep, you're going to get 10%, you're going to get 10%, you're going to get 10%, because I'll tell you right now, most agents will get about 0%. And then the other 20% of the agents that do open houses really well, they're going to be like 50% or more, right? That 10%, it's an interesting statistic, but what would be even more interesting is to break it down by agent to see what some people are getting out of open houses versus others, and then to ask, okay, well, what are you doing differently in open houses that's allowing you to convert buyers? I know that the number one answer is asking for the business, hands down. The number two answer is follow-up, right? Because most agents, when they hold an open house, they hold the house open. They don't ask anybody for contact information. They don't offer their services. They don't say, how can I help you? They don't say, I'd love to apply for the job. They don't say, I know other properties I can go show you. Let me put you up on an email alert. Or if they're pretty good and they do those things, nothing happens after the open house. No judgment. We get busy. There's no follow-up plan, right? So if you're the agent that does both of those things, you're going to get more than just 10%, right? Ask for the business, and then be religious in the follow-up. How will you find buyers? We've kind of talked about this before in terms of just lead generation in general, open houses, referrals, online. You could target people based on their life events that are occurring. We talked about newlyweds before. Maybe somebody's having a child. Referrals from other agents that don't work your specific market. There's all kinds of ways. Page 12 has a pretty decent script. Hey, I just want to see if you have any real estate plans coming up I can help you with. I appreciate you giving that a thought. If you do come across someone, will you promise to let me know? I would almost make that like my beginning annual phone call for people every year. Everybody in my database. Hey, Debbie and Zach, how are you? Debbie's going to say what?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much. Excited for the new year. Just wanted to reach out to you at the beginning of the year, see if you have any real estate plans for 2018. And if there's any way I can help you. What are you going to say?
I don't have it.
Okay, awesome. If that changes, please let me know. I'd love to help you. If you come across anybody else that could use my help, could you do me a huge favor and just put them in touch with me? I promise to take great care of them.
Absolutely.
Right. That pretty easy phone call. Make that your first phone call every single year. Hey, Happy New Year. How are you? Great. Hey, just checking. Do you have any real estate plans for this year? No? Awesome. Sounds good. I won't bug you for the rest of the year. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Because here's what you're going to find. Some people, man, they're so driven, or they're planners, and you're going to get the person that says, yeah, actually, we got to the point where this is the year we want to upsize, we want to downsize. This is the year that we want to get our first investment property. This is the year we want to add another investment property to our portfolio. Right? You're also going to be catching them at the time of year where they're thinking about these things. Hey, what do we want to do this year? What do we want to accomplish? What are our goals? What are our resolutions? Right? If you don't call them and have those conversations, that's going to be easy stones to overturn it to make that kind of a phone call at the beginning of the year. Or, I mean, if you want to be super slick, you could do it in early to mid-December before the holidays and say, hey, it's calling to say happy holidays, blah, 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 blah. Looking to next year. Do you have any real estate plans for the coming new year? Page 12 talks a little bit more about open houses. As a new agent, they're easy. I don't know about the word fun. Just kidding. Open houses and buyers, they are a lot of fun, but you'll find once you've got to the point where you've really mastered them and you're just super good at it, it loses a little bit of the fun unless they're just particularly super fun clients that is somewhat enjoyable. But like there would be times toward the end, and I've kind of turned this over to Carly now and somebody else on our team, but I would be doing a buyer consultation and I would just be going through it into my mind thinking about what I wanted to do when I was done with the buyer consultation. Like, I just want to go home, I'm super happy that we're picking these people up. I can't wait to help them, but I say the same, it's the same consultation over and over again, right? So I'm saying the same exact stuff over and over. I'm excited to help these people, but I'm not excited to deliver the content, right? But that gets to the point that that's when you're starting to master something, right? When it's that good and it's that second nature that you're just going through it and you don't have to think twice about it. It's not always exciting, right? But those are the key nitty-gritty things that you need to just do on a regular, habitual basis in order to see the kind of results that you want to see in your business, right? There's nothing exciting about a buyer consultation for me as the agent, except for maybe that one moment of thrill when I introduce the buyer contract and see whether or not they're going to sign, right? We're beyond that at this point, right? Okay. Your goal of holding the open is not just to sell the home; it's also to put yourself in the path of opportunity. You got to think of the open houses that way. It's putting yourself in the path of opportunity. We know there's going to be plenty of people filtering through. Buying or selling is on their mind. That's why the majority of them are there. So put yourself in that position of opportunity to potentially cash in on some of that and pick up some clients. For many agents, it's their number one strategy. To follow a proven model, buyers and sellers come to you. Other visitors may not be actively looking to buy or sell, but a memorable and favorable impression can generate referrals and business further down the road. Prep for it, market for it, connect with the people that come through it, and then do your lead cultivation and follow. That's going to be crucial for you. I know we spent a lot of time talking about open, so I'm not going to go into much more research after that. Or excuse me, much more detail. Page 14, do your market research. I've been guilty of this before where, we just put an open house on the calendar, like 2 seconds before the open, I printed off the sheet. I threw up some signs 5 minutes before it was supposed to start. I got in, I was still getting settled, and people walked in. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm Zach, how are you? They're like, awesome. Tell me about the house. I'm like,
Don't know, just go here.
yeah. Why don't you look around? No, just look here, right? So then I'm like fumbling for or the worst part is I didn't put it, I don't have the MLS sheet on me. I'm like, oh, what's the square footage? When was the year built? Oh, and I say, let me double check and verify that for you. I want to make sure I give you the right information. That's like my stall tactic. But yeah, just let me double check. So do yourself a favor. You can have a much better open house if you take, even if it's just 30 minutes to an hour, to prep a little bit before you go, study the home quickly, get a good idea of what it is you're getting into, and then, oh, by the way, the area around it. Know the market and the area around it so you can speak to it, right? So, how long have you been looking? Well, I was looking for the last couple of months. Okay, specifically here in Rochester? Yeah, Rochester is really where we want to be. Okay, awesome. Yeah, the last 2 months have been interesting. Only X amount of homes have sold over the last, since the beginning of the year. So it's been pretty competitive. Inventory's been pretty short. And average days on market's about 14 days. So if you see a property you like, you really have to move, right? Explaining statistics like that, helping them understand that you know the market, that you know what you're talking about, can help you a little bit in terms of picking them up as a client or potentially converting, right? Offering to put them in touch with a lender to help them get pre-approved, to understand the financial situation that they're in. I always like knowing at least a couple of other options that are similar that might intrigue the kind of buyers that would be coming through that property. Because if you dangle that carrot, oftentimes it intrigues them enough to at least still engage in conversation with you after the open house. And then it allows you to build rapport and eventually convert them, right? On page 15, it shows the couple of ones that you might want to have a pretty good idea or track when you're out at opens to have conversations with. List to sale price percentage, days on market, average days on market. They're pretty similar, but I would kind of know those. And sometimes people might ask you those questions. They might just say, well, what do homes typically go for in Rochester? Well, a wide variety of prices. No, you can say, hey, the average sale price in Rochester is $225, $250, whatever it happens to be, right? Oh, by the way, we typically see a slight uptick in the summer when it comes to average sale price. So that means if you buy now, you might actually get a little bit of a deal on the property versus if you buy, when it's gangbusters come spring or summer. Right? Just offering information like that helps people in their decision-making process. Any questions? I know I'm going kind of fast, so I want to leave time to go through the consultation. Talked about market stats a little bit. Number 4 talks about price trends. I think that's a great thing to know. Use local home values for the last 5 to 10 years to show how prices have fallen or risen over the last 10 years. Let your buyers know whether it's a buyer or seller's market. Price trends will drive how buyers and sellers behave in the market. If somebody's motivated to buy a property right now, and if you show them, hey, here's 2015, 16, 17, and I'm sure the graph looks like this. If prices are doing that, what do you think that helps them understand? 2 words, buy now. If you're motivated, buy now. Why? They're only going up, right? When people hear that, what do they usually think? Okay, prices are going up, so we better do what? Why? No, prices are going up, so we better do what?
Buy now.
Better buy now. Why?
It's because you're gonna.
Because it's going to cost me.
Expensive.
Because it's going to cost me more money. But what's the other bigger picture? What's the other bigger piece to that?
Well, interest rates might go up too, but the other thing I was thinking with just the housing is, if they buy now, next year their house when they own it is worth
Susan.
more.
That's the biggest caveat people always forget. They think, okay, we need to buy now to save money. Not only are you going to save
They're
money
gonna
if you
make
buy
money.
now, look at the appreciation you're going to see. So yeah, do it now. You'll save money and you'll benefit from the crazily, rapidly rising home prices, right? It compounds your cost savings.
So it creates urgency.
Yes and no, because I don't like to be that guy that's like, you need to do this now, right? Because it seems salesy, right? Which is fine. To me, it's educating. I'm the local economist of choice. I'm telling you what's going on in the economy. I'm telling you what's going on in the housing market, right? So if you're seriously motivated, I would be doing you a huge disservice, Ben, if I didn't explain to you that by buying now, not only will you save money, but you'll also be able to take advantage of the historically unbelievable appreciating home values we're seeing. Double-digit home appreciation on average. So we can save you money if you buy now and lock in a sweet interest rate, and you'll benefit from the appreciation more likely for the next few years to come before it begins to balance out, right? Remember last time we talked about if you bought in 2012, 2013, you're just like, all those people are living on islands somewhere now?
Right.
Just kidding. But they benefited from, not only did they benefit from the savings when they bought, but they benefited on crazy, insane appreciation. And think about it. If you buy a home let's say you buy a home at $200,000. You bought it 5 years ago. Now it's worth $250,000. What is 50 grand in terms of a percentage of 200,000? Your asset in 5 years has increased 25%, and you had to do nothing but own it. Those are the kind of conversations people need to realize, right? And that, I should say, those are the kind of conversations you need to have so that people realize things like that and the advantages to home ownership and that kind of thing. Now, let's be honest, it could go either way. We just happen to be in a pretty phenomenal market right now, right? One of my favorite Warren Buffett quotes is, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful, right? That was very, very true during the economic downturn, right? So we have to help people understand these things and make great decisions for them, but at the same time, the market's doing well, there's some opportunity, right? There's less opportunity for people that there was a lot of opportunity for 10 years ago. Who am I talking about specifically? Yeah, who for 10 years when everybody was fearful about the market, who was being greedy? Investors. Investors. And now that the market's doing very well, it's become hard to be what kind of a real estate person now. It's become harder to be an investor, right? Because you're paying premium for properties, right? That's not how you make your money investing. You make your money by buying at a discount, right? There's still money to be made. It's just that it's not as easy to find the deals, back in the day, there were more than enough deals to go around. They're just getting placed right on the MLS. I don't know if you've checked lately, but the amount of distressed properties listed on the MLS has plummeted, which means you gotta find those deals in other ways now, right? You can still find them, it's just not as easy to find. Because there's fewer. Okay. Oh, here's another one. Have the school information. I can't tell you how many times I've looked like an idiot when somebody asked me, so what elementary does it feed into? One of the 6.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Right? I would say, here's the deal. According to the website or according to whatever, my understanding is this property feeds into this school. However, if I were you as a buyer, I would call the district personally and verify that information. Because agents, they just throw that out willy-nilly. They guess, like, oh, I can see the elementary, but clearly it feeds to that one. But in reality, it doesn't, and that's a huge no-no. People buy homes sometimes specifically for what school it feeds into. And if you get that wrong, if you're the one that gave that wrong information, you just bought a house. No, I'm just kidding. But you might have, right? It's a big deal. It's a huge, huge deal. And those boundaries and stuff get changed all the time. We direct people straight to the district. We'll even make the call, but we'll say, hey, this is what we heard. I verified. I highly encourage you to verify and call them as well. I'm not going to be the source of that information. Page 19. Qualify and schedule buyers for the consultation. We've got our market knowledge, whether we're speaking to someone in our sphere, a referral, etc., who's expressed interest in buying, or they're just responding to some of our marketing. We've got 2 goals. Qualify. Are you an actual buyer? Number 2, get the appointment for the buyer consultation. Okay, are you calling just because you want me to let you into this house because you're super nosy and you think it looks cool, you just want to look at it? Or are you truly motivated to actually purchase a home, right? That's what qualify is kind of about. Number 1, we want to determine whether or not you're actually serious about buying. Number 2, we want to make sure that you actually can buy if you desire to, right? Or at least know what your parameters are. Then we're going to set the appointment. Now, sometimes I will use, if someone will come meet with me, I'll meet with them. You don't have to be pre-approved to come meet with me, because I think that part of that initial consultation is explaining to them sometimes how pre-approval works, put them in touch with people to get them pre-approved, right? I will take a meeting with anybody who's a potential future customer, right? Just because that's a chance for me to potentially plant the seed for future business and referrals, right? And some people are so underserved that there's a lot of opportunity there. And if you're the one person that gives them the time of day, you've got a client for life who's going to refer the heck out of you. There's a couple that I think of specifically. Hey there, how are you? They said, Zach and Carly, we really appreciate working with you guys, and they've referred us, I think, probably a handful of people, and we've helped them buy a house maybe three years ago. And they said, we walked into a real estate office, a local real estate office one day, a young couple with a few kids, and they said, we were treated so poorly because nobody thought we had money. Nobody would help us. And they said, but you guys, you had a consultation with us, you've been showing us properties, you found us a house. We couldn't be more happy with you guys. Like I said, they've referred us at least a couple of family members and then 2 or 3 other people on top of that, right? And her parents bought a property for like $300,000 on some acreage. That's a good price point. I will take that referral any day, right? So you have to keep in mind that getting the appointment, you never know what it's going to lead to, but at the very least, it allows you to develop or set some sort of game plan with them so that they know where to go moving forward. You know what I mean? Come on in. Yeah, no problem. And that's why it's so crucial. But at the appointment, you don't necessarily want to qualify them right there at the appointment because you're not a lender. You can't necessarily do that, right? But what you want to do is help them understand why becoming qualified in a pre-approval is an important part of the process, and then put them in touch with a lender who can help them with that. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a bit. So it's, hey, why qualify them first? I put to help them create a plan. That's my personal answer, to help them create a plan, answer their questions. Another way or another answer is to avoid wasting time. They may not be qualified to buy. They may have another agent they're working with. They may not be serious about buying. They may just be checking the prices of homes, etc. So I will caveat. I said I'll meet with pretty much anybody. The one person or the one prospective buyer I won't meet with is somebody that already has an agent, right? Because that truly is not only a waste of my time, but I shouldn't be doing it according to our ethics, right? But that conversation sounds like this. Somebody calls, hey, this is Zach with Keller Williams. How can I help you? Oh, this is Cindy. I'm looking at properties. Awesome. We have a little bit of a conversation. I say, Cindy, how you find out about homes? My agent is sending them to me. Okay, cool. Are you committed to that agent? Oh, well, yeah. Have you signed something with them? I have. Okay, great. Well, here's the deal. It would be appropriate for you to ask the questions of your agent. Or if you want information about this property, who's your agent, I can send it to them and they can pass it on to you, right? I'm not going to meet with that person. Now, if Cindy says to me, say, how are you finding about properties? Well, an agent sends them to me. Awesome. Are you committed? Well, no, not really. Have you signed anything with that agent? No. Okay, awesome. Well, come on in. What I'd love to do is have a consultation with you, blah, 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 right? Because she's not spoken before. There's no contract according to her, right? So I still will meet with that person. Then we're going to sign a contract, right? Questions or thoughts? I need at least one or two questions or some feedback because I've just been going like crazy here.
Have you ever had anybody say they hadn't signed a contract that had and you started working with them?
Did they had not signed a contract?
Right, but
Absolutely.
they really have signed one?
Oh,
and then
no.
They come in and
Not that I know of.
people.
Not that I know of. I'm sure that happens sometimes. I'm sure sometimes people sign something 6 months ago that's maybe good for a year, and meet with another agent, and then the agent helps them close on a deal. But I guarantee that that other agent doesn't even have an idea they bought a house, right? Otherwise, that relationship would be developed and they'd be helping them. I'm sure that happens. Good question. Any other questions? Besides how to get in trouble? All right. When buyer calls on a property they saw online or driving by, this sounds like an instant client, right? Hey, calling on this property, it looks awesome, we're very interested. We think there's awesome, I'll meet you there, I'll drop everything right now, let's go. All right, well, that's not always what we want to do. They usually have two goals. Random people calling on properties usually have two goals. Simply to eliminate the property and to eliminate you, not physically, but they don't want anything to do with you. They just want some information, right? Eliminate the property with a quick call. They want to determine if the house has potential. If it doesn't, they don't want to see it. Bob, can you tell me the price of the property on 123 Main Street? Yeah, it's that one's currently listed at $199. Thank you. That's all they want, right? Eliminate you. Until they're ready to make a move, they want to avoid salespeople, right? This is like that example I gave the other day when I said we're at the mall. Walk into a clothing store, we know we're looking for jeans. A very nice salesperson walks up and says, Ethan. Well, I don't say Ethan, that'd be creepy if they already knew your name. Right. They say, sir, welcome. Is there anything that we can help you with? Ethan says, no, stay away from me. Right? No, what do most people say in that instance? No,
Just looking.
I'm just looking. Well, obviously, that's why you're here. I'm asking, is there anything specifically that you're looking for? Most times we are, that we just say no because we don't want to be bothered, right? We don't want to feel like I just don't bug me, Cindy. I'm just here to look. I'm looking for something in particular. It might take me 30 minutes to find it versus 30 seconds if you help me, but I want to do it on my own. I do this at the grocery store all the time. Grocery stores, I don't know how they have them organized. They don't make any sense.
They don't.
It bugs the crap out of me, right? But I'm not going to ask anybody. Or by the time I break down, I'm ready to ask, like, I'll pass 5 different people that work there, but I don't ask them. And then by the time I do want to ask them, like, none of them, I can't find any of them, right? It's just mad. But remember, that's kind of how it is. So we need to be very strategic when we're answering the phone and having conversations with these folks to allow yourself an opportunity to work in your script for the consultation. Right? I kind of gave you some examples last week. Let's say Brad calls in and he just basically says, hey, what's the price of this property? Hey, Brad, great question. Why I looked that up for you? Tell me, what is it that you're looking for? What areas? Awesome. Is there a price you're looking to stay at or below? Blah, 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 blah. And then I can share the information with them and then try to lead into the consultation script. But what I was able to do by pushing a pause button really quick is build some rapport, elicit some information from him, and then make my offer of value versus just being Google and just spitting out the information and giving them the opportunity to say, okay, well, thank you. By using scripts that give the buyers the information they're looking for on the property, but at the same time enable you to find out enough about them and demonstrate your value before they eliminate you, is how you turn those phone calls into a win. You have to know what you're going to say. You have to have that script down pat, and then utilize it in building some rapport, having the conversation, and then demonstrating the value that you have to offer. Yes, sir.
I know when I was selling cars, only did for a couple of years, but those guys that were so hard initially,
Yeah.
you could stay in there for just a little.
Oh, yeah.
They are the best.
Yeah,
And that's
because they're
just
decisive.
Yeah, that's their initial reaction is just, you know, and you're just
Yeah.
like, and I remember one guy in particular, I said, listen, I don't even want to sell you a car. And he turned out to be one of my best customers.
Yeah.
I just sat there and chatted with him and he did want some information.
Yeah.
And then eventually he's like, yeah. And so it's,
Well, but here's the deal. They're just being, a lot of people are just very direct on the phone. And we interpret that on our end as them being rude or like, no, they're just being direct. They're just
Yeah.
wanting information, right? So don't let that dissuade you. And oftentimes they can be phenomenal clients because they're decisive and they know what they want. They're motivated. I love it. Yeah. It just say, well, here's the deal. Well, no, I don't need any help. Well, here's the deal. I can make your life a lot easier, and I just call it what it is sometimes. I'm not looking to sell you anything. I'm not looking to do this or that. But what I can do is send you exactly what you're looking for. I can make this easier for you. Would that be helpful? Yeah. Okay, great. Right. Some of the gruffest people I worked with were at the beginning of my career. They were investors. When I talked about a buyer rep contract, they're like, nope, not going to do it. No way, Jose. Right? Because I want a bunch of agents working for me to find me properties. I said, I get that. Here's the deal. I need some commitment from you. My buyer rep contract is going to say any home that I show you, if you were to make an offer on it, you will use me as your agent. Not locking you down for all properties in the world here. I'm locking you down for the properties that I find and bring to you. Well, okay, no, that does make sense. Awesome. Now, let's find a win-win here.
yeah, I was always training, like when we're doing investment, don't use a buyer, go to the listing agent. They got the inside track, and if it's a grudge, you can. So I'll drive by, see a property. I want the listing agent, and I want to see it right now. So I'll call them up and say, listen, I want to get through this. Basically, I want to see what does it look like on the inside, what's your price, what's everything, and then, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
But I was always taught not to use a buyer's agent, let's say.
Sure.
And always go through the listing agent because they have the inside track.
Absolutely. And so I'll just ask you one question, and maybe it'll be telling you, maybe it won't be telling. Did you find that some listing agents were super, super lazy?
Yes.
There you go. Because they've got the listing, they've got this, that, and that's going to be some agents, no matter if they're listing agents or buyer's agents, are going to be more or less lazy, right? If you find yourself a great agent in general, whether they're buying or listing, and they'll work hard for you and uncover those properties for you or help you bring deals together, that's what I'm looking more for as an investor than anybody.
I felt like in the past, sometimes I lost a deal because I didn't have a listing.
Absolutely, and that very well could happen. Sometimes, especially if it's a bank-owned property, sometimes they won't allow the listing agent to represent the buyer because they view it as a little bit of a conflict of interest, right? But that's neither here nor there. What I tell you is knowing the reality of real estate transactions and how some people operate their business and whether or not they're doing things that they should or should be doing. Absolutely, I'm sure that's been the case for people at times. But I also know if you work with a good buyer's agent who's willing to work hard on your behalf, they're worth their weight in gold. Sure.
Versus an investment, it's not like an individual bank looking for a home.
Right.
Maybe. Although this market is aggressive right now.
I was going to say, with investment right now, what I've been talking to investors about is working with an agent is really attractive because if we get the inside scoop on a property, I mean, investment properties are going faster than single family right now.
Well, here's why the listing agent could be potentially crucial is because that listing agent may have a contract with the bank or whoever, so they might even know about properties that are in the pipeline yet that aren't yet active, and that's where a lot of opportunity is. But a lot of that's managed where it will hit the market though. But if you can know it's coming and have been in there ahead of time and have your offer ready and slam it down on the table day one, well, that might help you a little bit more.
Sure, the best deals never hit the market.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
The other thing is if you're not an all cash buyer, it's gonna take you more time to figure out how to finance that deal. Once it does hit the market, then it's gonna take stuff.
Yeah, especially right now because you're competing with owner occupants as well, and they sometimes get weighted a little bit heavier, not even necessarily based on what the overall net is to the seller. Page 20, NAR fact. 2 out of 3 of all buyers interviewed only one agent. I suspect it's even fewer than that. I don't think it's 66% interviewed only one agent. I think it's probably darn close to 90%. I think hired the first agent they came across. That's my humble opinion. Then you're looking at me goofy. Page 20. NAR fact, 2 out of 3 of all buyers interviewed only one agent.
I was looking for the percentage, like.
Yeah, that's one of the few percentages I've committed to memory. I don't have to do the math on that one. But they're basically saying that 1/3 of the people that 2/3 of all people, 66%, so let's call it nearly 70%, thanks Susan, hired the first agent. Interviewed mean talked to, right? According to buyers, for the most part, right? So basically, nearly 70% of people hire the first agent that they kind of seriously talk to about potentially helping them buy a home. What's your takeaway on that?
If you talk to somebody, they're probably.
Yeah, which is why, Debbie, which is why we probably tell you to do what every day?
Call prospect.
Make your contacts! Holy crap, right? The statistics back it up. Most agents aren't doing it. If you're one of the only agents making your contacts every day, and 70% of people that are buyers use the only agent they ever talk to, you're greatly increasing your chances of doing business and growing, right? The statistics bear everything out that we're telling you. That's the whole strategy behind making a set number of contacts each day or each week, whatever you need to do, commit yourself to a set number and be religious about it. And you will start to see the results. And like I said before, I think that's probably closer to 80%. I really do. 80 to 90% of people is the first one you talk to, which also makes a consultation very powerful because if you're one of the only few people doing consultations, you get somebody to come in and meet with you. 9 times out of 10, they are going to do business with you. It's the only way to run your buy-side business, in my humble opinion, based on the results I've witnessed. Okay, number 1, qualify. Here's the deal. Establish control of the conversation when the buyer calls by asking about price, motivation, location, wants, needs, timeline, finances, availability. Those are like the few things you want to touch on in your initial conversation to lead into the buyer consultation. Awesome. What are you looking for at home? Where are you looking? In a perfect world, when would you like to be in your next property? That's a timeline question. Have you already got it pre-approved, or do you know what your budget is? Okay, awesome. Well, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to offer you a free, no hassle, no obligation consultation. Come on into the office. I'll answer all your questions, explain to you exactly how the home buying process works, and help you formulate a game plan that will allow you to be successful. Would that be helpful for you? Fantastic. Come on in.
What is your script for somebody who wants to move up and they currently hate the house they live in?
They currently hate their house?
Yeah.
My script is God bless you. That's what I love to hear. No, I'm being kind of funny. So when they say, just don't like their house that we're currently in, I say, awesome, well, here's what I'd love to do. Why don't you come on into the office? We can look at all the properties that might be available for sale, and maybe we can help you find one that will fit your needs a little bit more. Would that be helpful for you? So if somebody gives me very specific information, I'll touch on that, and then I'll go immediately to what I can offer them, and then say, would that be helpful? Right? Awesome. Why don't you come on in? We'll have a conversation about what your options are, and you can decide if there's a better option for you. Would that be helpful? Absolutely. Come on in. To answer your question. Okay. Buyer lead check sheet on page 21 and page 22. So we use something similar to this, and how it works is we set the consultation. We have this information thing. It's kind of like when you go to a doctor's office and asks you a bunch of questions. First and foremost is exhausting all their contact information, gathering all that. We put it on a clipboard. We leave it with our version of Nikki in Burnsville. Her name is Katie. And we let Katie know, we let the director of first impressions, the person at the front desk know, hey, we've got a client coming in around 3 o'clock. If you could give this to them when they get here and then let us know when they're here, we'd appreciate it. Okay, no problem. Person gets here, Nikki greets them, hey, how are you? Could you please fill this out? I'll go get Zach or Carly in just a moment. What sort of expectations are we setting right off the get-go? This is a professional setting. We're similar to how your doctor operates or similar to how your attorney operates. You come in, you fill out some basic information for us. We'll come find you when we're ready to meet with you. You make them sit there for 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. don't do that. And oh, by the way, they're saying, can we get you any coffee? Can we get you any water? Things like that, right? Just basic pleasantries, right? Just setting things off on the right foot from the get-go. Then we'll come up and greet them. Hey, how are you? You must be so-and-so. Come on back. We take them into a conference room and it goes from there, right? But this checklist is super helpful because it allows me to, I've been through appointments before where I'm like, oh, crap, I forgot to get their email address. Or, oh, crap, I forgot to get their phone number, right? Or I didn't even think to get their mailing address, right? Because we send them thank yous after they come in for a consultation. So this form forces me to capture all that information. It usually asks on there too, how did you hear about us? And then at the very bottom it says, do you know anybody else who could use our help? I haven't even met them yet. I know who they are, and I'm already asking for referrals, right? Now on the back side has a place for you as the agent to take notes on, in our version, not necessarily this one. But I flip it over and ask what they're looking for in homes and blah, 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 and that's what I used. So now we have a one-page sheet on these clients, contact information, what they're looking for, what their timeline is, right? And did we put them in touch with a lender? Or do they already have one? So now we're also taking note of who the actual lender is so we know who we're working with, right? Okay. So I would say this one right here, which you can find in eEdge, is not a bad one. Utilize it, it's better than nothing. But if you want to tweak it, add, subtract to it, that would be something I recommend as well. Okay, page 23. Up there it says rate the buyer. I like saying prioritize. Prioritize the buyer. And we're prioritizing them basically based on their timeline, right? So here it talks about A buyers, B buyers, and C buyers. A buyers to me are somebody that says, hey, if in conversation I can determine that they will likely be under contract on a home in about 0 to 2 months, that's somebody that's getting some priority attention from us, right? Because I know that they need to be moving out, seeing properties, getting deals done if they want to be doing something, if they want to have a property under contract in 0 to 2 months, right? A B buyer, I would say you're probably, if they want to be in a home between maybe 2 to 4 or 2 to 6 months, right? Because I still want to stay in touch with you, because sometimes that 5 or 6 months turns out to be 3, right? That timeline gets bumped up. So somebody I still want to be engaged with and communicating with, but I'm not actively encouraging them to go out to properties ASAP. If they said, hey, my lease still has 4 months on it, okay, great, let's stay in touch. I don't want to lose you, right? But at the same time, I want to stay engaged enough that if that timeline does change for whatever reason, we can get you right in the game. And then C buyers, they've got no immediate need. They're just kicking the tires. They're thinking they want to do something. Maybe they're 6 months or more or a year out from actually doing something. Awesome. We want to stay in touch. We want to stay engaged with you. Maybe we need to help you work through some credit stuff with the lender, this, that, and the other. Here's what happens though. Usually for most agents, especially the way I operate at the very beginning, is I only ever focus on A buyers. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was just human nature, right? If you two ladies said that you wanted to buy a house in the immediate future, you became my sole focus. If you two said, yeah, we're looking to do something later this summer, I would convince myself, okay, great, I'll stay in touch. But I never did because I focused on these two, right? And if you guys said, hey, by the end of 2018, we're thinking of doing something, my God, what I probably saw was later on you bought a house without me, right? And I kicked myself and say, I lost that out, right? I lost out on that business. So what you need to do is help prioritize, track them all, keep them in your database, make notes to yourself. Okay, these two can be a priority. I've got a follow-up plan for you guys. You're at least getting alerts or emails or weekly phone calls from me. And for the rest of you, I'm at least checking in with you at the bare minimum once a month just to see if anything's changed, right? That conversation is easy. It sounds like this. Hey, Debbie, this is Zach over at Keller Williams. How are you? Hey, I know that when we met just a couple of weeks ago, you said that you're maybe looking at buying a house 3 to 4 months from now. I'm just calling to see if that's still the timeline you have in mind.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll stay in touch with you if that's okay. Do you have any questions while I have you on the phone?
Nope.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good, Debbie. I will stay in touch. If anything changes for you, just let me know.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. By the way, do you know of anybody else? No, I'm just kidding. You can go into that one. You can go into that one too if you want, though, right? call Bob, call Brent, anybody have the same conversation. It's okay to call in and say, hey, are you still tracking on the same timeline? Right, because you do that and all of a sudden this happens. Hey, Bob, it's Zach over at Keller Williams. How are you? I'm doing well, thanks. Hey, I'm calling just to check in. I know we met not that long ago, and you said you're probably about 6 months out. Just calling to see if your timeline has changed at all. Well, actually, it has. Oh, okay. Tell me about that. Well, I took a new job, or the timeline got bumped up. We're launching a new project. I need to move much faster than I originally anticipated. Okay, great. Sounds like you and I need to visit and have a conversation about bumping up whatever, right? Boom. That stuff happens sometimes, right? Timelines can change. What I've suffered from in the past is somebody told me 6 months, and I took them at 6 months. And things happen, things changed, right? Or what usually happens is people just get so excited, right? Once they start going and looking at homes, what do you think happens?
Find one they like.
Yeah. Does that happen to anyone before? You're right. It's human nature. It's human nature. You get out, you know you want to do it. So you go out, you start looking, and all of a sudden your timeline compressed substantially because you just fell in love with the house. You just want to make it happen, right? So the best way to safeguard against that or make sure that you're still a part of that process is by staying in touch and staying engaged. The only way you're going to do that is if you're calling and asking, has anything changed? Or just, hey, just call to check in. Is anything changed? No? Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Talk to you later. By the way, that counts as contact. Those are easy ones to do. Any thoughts or feedback on that? Am I doing crazy talk up here? Yeah, I know I'm doing crazy talk up here. It's probably no? Oh, yeah, write that one down. Page 24, qualify financially. Financial qualification is essential. You don't want to waste your time or your buyer's time by looking at homes that are not in their price range. Now, let me caveat that because that can sound very callous, it can sound very harsh, and it's not meant that way, right? It's not to say, you can't qualify, I'm not going to waste my time on you. No, that's not the way. Some people run their business that way. That's not the way I run my business, right? Because my thought is, everyone's a client. Everyone's a potential customer. I can help. Their game plans and their timelines are just different. Part of my job is consulting them to come up with the right game plan and the right timeline that works for them, right? But really, what is true about that, though, is don't waste their time, right? It's not wasting your time, and it's not wasting their time by helping them understand what they can and can't do and where they are in the process, right? If Susan comes in and she says, Zach, I'd like to buy a house tomorrow, we put her in touch with Sally, our lender, and Sally says it's going to be a good year before she's anywhere near if she does this, this, and this. I said, great. Here's the deal, Susan. Put you in touch with Sally. She's got some bad news for her. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have a conversation about a game plan and what that looks like. And oh, by the way, Susan's very much going to appreciate the fact that the two of us, me and the lender, helped her get to the point where she could buy a property, right? But you have to stay engaged in conversation as well. Because would I be doing Susan any favors if I didn't have her go see if she could get pre-qualified and just started showing her homes? Because what's going to happen, Brad?
She'll fall in love with the one and she can't buy it.
She'll fall in love with the house 3 weeks from now. We'll finally go to complete this process to make an offer, and she's going to find out that, oh my Lord, you have a year before you can realize this dream, if you're lucky, right? So not only did I waste her time, I did her a disservice because I got her excited about something now that she can't do, and oh, by the way, I wasted my time, right? So that's what I tell people. Here's the deal: to avoid wasting your time, we need to get you pre-approved so you know what your budget is, so you know what your parameters are, right? I try to communicate it as lightly as possible. You know what I mean? Hey, we need to find out what your maximum. No, we need to find out what your parameters are, right? And I always tell people this: even more than what's more important than you finding out what you're ultimately qualified to purchase is maybe having a conversation with a lender that says, hey, I'm most comfortable with a monthly payment of this. Based on that, what purchase price should I be at or below? In order, and I coined the term to keep me within my financial comfort zone. Right? I like having that conversation with people. Find out what's going to keep you in your financial comfort zone. Have that conversation with your lender, and then they need to tell us what price you need to be at or below in order for you to still be within that financial comfort. Pre-qualification versus pre-approval. What's the difference?
Pre-approval is where it really qualifies them. They need more financial information.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the difference is. Pre-qualification, useless. Pre-qual is useless.
Is there writing in pre-approval?
Say again?
Is there something in
There's
writing?
more verification. they've submitted statements, W-2s, tax returns, things of that nature. Very rarely is there any underwriting that's done. Some lenders are getting so competitive for business now that sometimes they will even do some little preliminary underwriting on the person. But usually what they've done is they've collected documents to substantiate income. And they've done a credit check. Whereas a pre-qual basically means what? What did the lender do? What information did they use to pre-qual you?
Just what you gave them.
Whatever you decided to say. Well, here's the deal, on a good day, or a good year, I make about $1 million. Liabilities, next to none. I do very well, right?
George.
Yeah.
You are George,
Yeah. I heard he made an appearance on Saturday Night
He
Live.
did, he was awesome.
As Will Ferrell, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. But in reality, it's whatever they say. That's what they get pre-qualified for. Well, that's zero help, right? Zero help. What we need is pre-approval. Pre-approval means, hey, not only did I tell you these things, but we backed it up with some sort of documents that were submitted. The lenders looked at them. They verified, okay, this is the income, this is the debt, this is the credit score. Based on these things, you are pre-approved to this amount.
I mean, you call the lender?
I will sometimes. I mean, if we're at a point, and I'll show you how we do it in the consultation, that if somebody comes to us without a lender, they usually end up working with one of the lenders that we have a relationship with already. For a few reasons. Number one, I know the lenders do a great job. I know they're going to verify what they need to, and I know they do that their customer service is through the roof, right? That's why we work with them. And I know they're going to get the job done and close on time, right? If they come to us with, and so we're going to be in constant communication about that mutual client. If they come to us with a lender that we don't know, I'll always recommend have you shopped around, introduce them, maybe a few others that I know that they can talk to. Or I'll say, great, what I'm going to need after our meeting is for you to send me the contact information of your lender. I need to reach out to them and establish a good working relationship. Then I'll call them. Yeah, hey, this is Zach over at Keller Williams. We've got a mutual client. His name's Ben. He told me he's been pre-approved with you. Just calling to verify that. Is it a pre-qualification? Is it a pre-approval? How do you feel about the pre-approval? What sort of financing did you guys have in mind? Are we looking at conventional? Did you guys talk down payment? All those things. Absolutely. Because you just know what you're getting into. And it doesn't take long for you to realize, okay, Quicken Loans McGee over here, Rocket Mortgage, whoever, right? You can get a warm and fuzzy on that lender pretty quickly, or the opposite pretty quickly, right? If the name doesn't even ring a bell, then I'm having conversations with clients. I used to be way more finicky about talking to people about pre-approval and all that fun stuff. I used to be way more like, well, I don't know if I don't want to offend anybody. Now I'm like, hey man, here's the deal. I talked to your lender. I didn't get a warm and fuzzy. I highly recommend you interview some other people. Seriously, here's what I tell you. Here's why, Susan. I've been a part of transactions before where we didn't have a good feel about the lender, and the week before closing or the day before closing, we had issues. My recommendation would be that either interview a couple of the folks that we know have a great track record, or that you continue to shop around, because that person in particular, I'm just being honest with you, they don't give me a comfortable feeling. Oh, they're a relative of yours. Well, in that case, be careful what you say. But if they say that to you, say, okay, well here's the deal.
What's your dad?
Yeah, right. Why don't you lead with that next time? Or hey, if you're really tied to working with that lender, I know they're associated with your workplace, and they say they'll give you a good deal. Let's do this. Let's continue to work with them, but let's hold them to a high standard. And if we discover that they're not communicating properly or they're not meeting timelines, let's make a change sooner rather than later if we determine that would be a good thing to do. Right? What expectations did I just lay right there?
A high expectation.
Yeah, and what else? I just communicated to my client. We'll try your guy. If your guy starts to fail, we will fire them.
So your expectation
and you will
too.
utilize somebody else, right? Because that's going to do you better as the client to make that change early on than all of a sudden having to deal with potential issues later on down the road. Somebody was just telling me the other day, I think it was an agent in our office, that their client was using a lender with bank whatever, and the loan officer retired before the close of the transaction. And they had to try to figure something out. I was like, you can't make that up. He just retired, and there was no game plan, no passing of the torch. Right, exactly. So you can safeguard against that by using great professionals that you know do a phenomenal job, and or helping your clients realize, hey, this is a weird conversation to have with you, but your current lender, on my end, they're missing a couple of things that are crucial. This could lead to some issues down the road. Have you really considered potentially using somebody else? I love lenders, don't get me wrong. There are some lenders out there that will make your life super easy. There are other lenders out there that will make you want to commit murder, right? So avoid working with those people to keep yourself out of jail. Pre-qualification, preliminary evaluation on how much the buyer can afford to borrow using initial information from the buyer. Pre-approval, a more involved process in which the lender actually verifies a buyer's income, employment, etc. to evaluate how much the buyer can afford to borrow. Here's an explanation of the benefits of a pre-approval in a script if you need to utilize a script for it. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's important that you are pre-approved for a loan before you begin your home search. Pre-approval is really just a lender's determination of how much money you'll be eligible to borrow or what your parameters are, right? You'll know exactly what price range you can afford. When you find the home you love, you'll be able to take action quickly and submit an offer. Sellers will be more likely to accept an offer from a buyer who's pre-approved. Not more likely to accept, more like only will accept an offer if it comes with a pre-approval letter. Right? As a listing agent, if you submit to me an offer and you can't get me a pre-approval letter, how much weight do you think that offer has with me?
Zero.
About none. If it's cash, of course. But about none. If it's cash, what am I asking for? There's no pre-approval letter with a cash offer, right? There's no financing.
You still need a statement from where that cash is coming from to verify that that
What's
cash
that
is
called?
there.
Proof of funds. Proof of funds. Ben, that's awesome that you're going to buy this house cash. I need a statement. You can black out the account numbers or whatever, but I need a statement that shows your name on it or the entity that you own and some other paperwork showing that you own that entity. And it needs to show me a dollar amount in a bank account and that person's name or that entity's name that will cover what you're saying you're going to buy this property for. If you don't submit to me proof of funds, we don't have a deal. And if you submit to me proof of funds, it's a 401k or a stock portfolio, we're going to have a conversation because that's not necessarily liquid funds. You know what I mean? So it's don't be afraid to have those conversations and ask those questions. That's your job.
Camels?
Yeah, right. And initially, you can see if there are any other errors in your credit report you can resolve right away, et cetera, et cetera. Would you like one of my lenders to give you a phone call to see if we can't help you get pre-approved? Right. Just kind of setting that expectation, make it as easy for them as possible. Heck, I'll even have somebody reach out to you if that will make it easier, right? What's kind of nice about when you have a lender that's in-house with you is you can walk them right over, right? Hey, so-and-so, whoever lenders, hey, I'm going to be meeting with some clients about 3 o'clock today. Based on when I talked to them on the phone, they're not yet pre-approved. My meeting's probably going to go to about 3:45. Would you have 10, 15 minutes to visit with them afterward if they're free? I guarantee you most lenders would say, absolutely. Right? You just shepherd them right over. Okay, page 25, 7 critical points in the mortgage process for realtors. I'm going to buzz through these. We'll take a break, and then I'll go through my consult with you. Okay. Here, first and foremost, there is a clear separation of duties in home buying and home financing process. Clear separation of duties. As far as being a real estate agent goes, yep, you need to have a pre-approval letter. You need to have some basic communication with the lender to make sure stuff is staying on the timeline, that you're getting certain things met, like the commitment letter, that you know what kind of financing they're using and what percentage down they're going to put, etc. But other than that, make the lender do their job. Give your client questions to ask their lender. Don't become the agent that's playing the middleman between your client and the lender. For some reason in my mind, when I first got into the business, I thought I had to do that. I thought I had to be the middleman. No, especially if you're working with lenders that are doing this at a high level like you are, that should be the conversation should sound like this. Hey Ben, that's a great question. That question is actually for Sally. I would direct you and have her call you, or I would have you call her about that and get the information directly from her. Because I know enough to be dangerous, but she's going to have all the detailed information that you might want about that specific situation when it comes to your financing.
Yeah, why would you want to take that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What happens is you get busy enough that you realize, why am I answering this? I'll make Sally do it. You know what I mean? But seriously, or they're gonna start asking you questions, and instead of saying, well, I don't know, or trying to make stuff up, say, hey, you know what, that's a great question. That would be a great question to ask your lender specifically. Zach, what should I do with my interest rate? Cross your fingers? I don't know. That's a great question for Sally. Call her. Ask her if you should lock it now or write it out. I don't know. I know what I would do. So don't be afraid to make that separation pretty clear. I'm not telling you to say, you know, just throw your hands up and make it seem like, oh my God, why are you calling me? No, just, hey, yeah, Becca, that's a great question. Here's what I recommend. Call Sally. She can give you a way better answer on that than I can. You know what I mean? That's a nice way of saying, don't ask me, ask somebody else. Okay, the initial handoff. Initially handing them off to a lender you would recommend is crucial. Oh, by the way, this is a business opportunity. You could have, you know, one. Oops. I'm getting excited over here. You can have 1, 2, 3, I don't know. You can have however many lenders you're comfortable with. And when you're meeting with a prospective client, you can choose to put them in touch with 1, you can choose to put them in touch with 3, whatever, right? You can't mandate that somebody works with a particular lender. That is an illegal thing to do. But what you can do is say, hey, I've had a great experience with this person before. I highly suggest you reach out. Or, hey, I'm going to send you the information of 3 lenders I've used multiple times. They all do a great job. Call, interview them, and hire whichever one you want to use. Right? And oh, by the way, can you have conversations with these lenders and say, hey, man, I've sent you 5 pieces of business so far this year. Where's mine? Hook a brother up.
Yeah.
Right? Let's do some reciprocating. Right? I'm not saying that I'm going to give you business or encourage business in order to specifically receive business. What I'm saying is let's be mutually supportive here. If you have enough conversations with lenders, you'll find lenders that give this and they will reciprocate. It's a business decision. It only makes sense. And I always tell lenders, hey, I don't necessarily expect a 1-for-1 return because I'm in the business of finding these clients and you aren't necessarily. But if I send you, I hope somebody's watching at home. What the heck's going on? But if I'm sending you business, there's an expectation that you're gonna, refer me business too. That's a no-brainer, right? Because if you won't, I'll find somebody who will. The trick is finding a lender that gets that and also still has great customer service, right? The lender who I found that was the best at referring business to us, he was also the best at getting them closed. But his communication sometimes was kind of, his customer service wasn't the best, let's put it that way, for whatever reason in some instances. But yeah, use it as an opportunity to build those relationships, refer business, and use it as a way to hopefully get some more business too. Pre-qual versus pre-approval, we talked about that. Expectations on setting the what's, when's, and how's. Once you've placed your buyer into a loan officer's hands and an initial evaluation has been made of the buyer's financial strength, it's a good time for you to let the loan officer know what events in the mortgage process you want to know about. Our lenders know to keep us updated when our clients are working through the pre-approval process because they're going to be very hands-on with them. I don't need to be as engaged right now. My job is kind of this, Bob, we've had the conversation. You're getting pre-approved, so I'm not going to bug you. I want you to focus on getting pre-approved. I might call you weekly and say, hey, Bob, just checking in. How's pre-approval going? Right? But I want my lender in touch with you on a semi-regular basis, shepherding you through that pre-approval process. And then that lender on the back end needs to be letting, hey, Zach, FYI, Bob came in and you put me in touch with Bob yesterday. We scheduled an appointment. We're going to meet sometime next week. Awesome. Email updates me. Hey, just want to let you know I had a great meeting with Bob. We've got a plan in place. He's likely going to be pre-approved by the end of the month. Awesome. Sounds good. What do you think I'm going to do once my lender calls me and tells me that? Call Bob. Hey, Bob, heard the good news. It sounds like it could be, pre-approved by the end of the month. At that point in time, let's go start seeing properties. What did I just get ahead of the curve on?
Communication. You had to give before Bob had to call you and say, I'll be approved. I mean, you're already knowing it.
Right, and I just set an expectation with Bob that, hey, I know you're not going to be pre-approved at the end of the month, so we're not seeing properties until the end of the month. Good. You know what I mean? Because I leaned forward on that one a little bit versus Bob calling, hey, I met with Brian, let's go start looking at homes. No, it's not going to happen until you're done getting pre-approved, right? Or Brian will call me and say, hey, I met with Bob. Here's the deal. He seems solid, but I think we're going to need at least a couple months to work him up to where he needs to be. Okay, awesome.
How much information does that lender get?
As much as Bob will allow.
Okay.
Yeah. If Bob or the client says, yeah, so-and-so is my realtor, and you can have conversations with them, that's easy. right? I'm not gonna start asking, well, how much does Bob make? If I needed a small personal loan, should I call and ask Bob? No. I wouldn't do things like that, but I'm just saying, hey, what's our timeline? How's he looking? Is there anything else I need to do, right? I want to say Carly over the weekend met with a guy that we had met with almost a year ago. He actually, when he came in, we had him re-sign a new buyer rep contract with us because his other one was going to expire. And it's because of the first time he came in to meet with us and we put him in touch with the lender, the game plan we walked away with is we need to take the next year to get you to the position to be able to buy. But guess where he's been? He's been on our tracker and on our pipeline every week for the last year. So we've been communicating with him, engaging with him, staying in touch with him. Guess what? The time is right. It's been a year. Comes in, re-signs the buyer contract, re-goes through a buyer consultation. We're going to make it happen. In the past, I guarantee I would have lost that piece of business. I wouldn't have tracked it. It would not have been a priority for me. I would not have had the systems in place. I would not have had a buyer consultation. I wouldn't have had a chance at that business, right? By organizing it now, having that consultation, and having the follow-up now, it's ensuring, it's acting as a fail-safe to make sure I don't lose out on opportunities like that. Reinforcing loan requirements to the buyer. Oh, by the way, great lenders will let their buyers know that they shouldn't be going out and doing things like financing a brand new car before they close on the home, quitting their job before they close on the home, right? And you might want to include some of this in your conversations as well to prevent against that if your lender fails to mention those things. Unexpected events, like I talked about, oftentimes you want to call people just to check in. That's how you find out about stuff like that. Post-approval lockdown. Once your buyer has received final loan approval, congratulate them, but also tell them that between now and loan closing is a terrible time to buy a new car. Okay, I already talked about that. I got ahead of myself. Loan closing. You gave your loan officer the specifics of the loan closing, date, time, name, address, etc. at some point early in the process. Don't forget to update them if any of this information changes, as it often does. This is especially important for closing documents, etc. Has this ever happened? You bring together a deal, you negotiate sale price, all this fun stuff, all the terms of the loan, all the terms of the purchase, which dictate or govern the terms of the loan as well, right? You send it to the closing company, you send it to the lender because they need all this information, but you still have your home inspection to do, right? But you give everybody a heads up, hey, we came to terms on this deal. You have the home inspection, and as a result of the home inspection, the buyer and sellers agree to a $500 price reduction. You sign off on that amendment. You put it in dot loop. So like, sweet, Katie, Nikki, the powers that be, they're not going to harass me. I put it in dot loop, I'm good. Well, who did you forget to send it to?
The lender.
You forgot to send it to the lender. You forgot to send it to title. If they don't know that the price has changed, their paperwork is not going to reflect that. And if it's discovered the day before closing, you're going to have some issues, potentially issues that might cause a delay, right? So the takeaway on that is any changes that's happening to that transaction from start to finish, you need to keep everybody in the loop on, right? Because when might another instance occur where could potentially affect the price further into the transaction? Appraisal, absolutely. And appraisal is typically how close to closing. Yeah, might be 2-3 weeks out, right? So let's say we have an appraisal 3 weeks out, we discover an issue, it takes us a week to negotiate it, then it takes me another half a week or a week to communicate the final resolution. Well, now we're danger close to closing. And we may or may not be able to close on time, right? So just constantly communicate. First off, get all these changes in writing, communicate it to, at a minimum, the lender and title so that everybody knows and tracking what's going on. Here's what I've learned. A lot of other agents, what they do, once an offer comes together, this is what they do. I will see you at closing. Mr. Lender, Mrs. Title Rep, it's on you guys now. I've done my job. The exact opposite. This is what happens. When the deal comes together, this is what the agent, instead of doing this, the agent should be doing this. I'm putting on my working gloves because now it's my job to shepherd everybody through this. So I got my gloves on, I got my cattle prodder, I'm prodding you. Title person, is the paperwork done? Where are the closing documents? Lender, where's my commitment letter? Has the appraisal been ordered? Let's make it happen, right? You can't do this because you're surrendering your responsibility for the transaction. You're not doing your fiduciary to your client. when it's under contract, yes, you're making weekly check-ins to your client. You're making weekly check-ins to title and lending too. Lender, is the homeowner's insurance policy locked up? How's closing? How's title? Are we good? How are we doing? First off, have we scheduled it? Is it confirmed? Where are we doing? All right. We forget about those things, but that's our job. It's to help these guys. It's to help remind them, because you might be managing 1 or 2 transactions, right? When you're crushing it, you can be managing even more than that, obviously. But how many transactions do you think a closer is managing at any given time? More than I can imagine. More than I can imagine. So unless you're tapping them on the shoulder every now and then, how many deals do you think a lender is managing at any given time? I mean, I think about my ideal job, man, and lenders have it made. They don't have to do showings, right? They can close a ton of properties, never have to go to the closing, do it from anywhere. It's pretty easy. It's not easy, right? But it's definitely different, right? So if they've got all that going on, it's your job to stay on their radar and say, hey, you need to make sure this happens. Hey, our commitment letter is due tomorrow. Have not seen it from you. We've got to get it, right? So don't forget that. Okay, let's take a break. It is 11:03. Let's pick it back up at 11:15. Okay.
People said, sure.
Sure.
So, and we did that like Friday afternoon.
I want it back today or tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you guys,
I'm
do you
watching the phone
agree
right
to it?
now,
Do you
and,
agree to it on Friday, today or tomorrow, without a doubt?
right, so I thought, should I give them till like 3 or 4 o'clock today and then go along?
I called to check, hey, how was the weekend? I know last Friday we talked about this, just wanted to check in, remind you, and see if you had TA on that.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it would probably be today.
Yeah, I should have said.
How'd your lunch go, bro?
Went okay.
Yeah?
Good to meet up with Jordan, and he's a busy dude, but it's good. And Whistle, was it Whistle? Big said, pretty cool spot.
Yeah, that's nice.
It really is Katie.
Yeah, food was good. I always like a place where they got popcorn. I don't know, I like popcorn, so I sit there.
Popcorn's good.
It's like popcorn's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Popcorn's good.
Yeah, Jordan.
I'm better than much of it, I need to float around.
Didn't do it, so. How about you? What's going on? Anything? Get your license and stuff, did I get pushed through?
Yeah, so I'm all licensed now. I'm waiting till February to go to the board of realtors. I figured why pay the extra $70 for sure.
Yeah.
Big days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're happy to have it.
I got their hand out there anytime you walk in the door.
So
Yeah.
I will wait for that.
You got more?
Oh yeah,
Come on down.
but
It's not like it needed or anything to get through this meeting, Zach. It's got nothing to do with that. Well, I have my suspicions, but.
a different person who's also in the.
You looking for a refill too, Bob, or you good?
I'm good.
How do you find those
A
forms?
little tough out there. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
you're
across.
Go in there
Type really-
and then search
So
the title of the form.
the cycle of investing it's always one way or another. And you just have to look at it like that. There were a lot of deals before, and there was no money to do the deals, right? Like
Over resources.
in 2007, how many all cash buyers were there?
Go to education.
Not many, right? Because all that cash came from stock policies, which also just moved all over.
Sure.
So that was the
Search
search. The deals are there, but the money was
The search
right
bar.
now. we're gonna
Search for it in there
exact
and let me
copy
know
that's
if you find it.
There's
I'll be right back.
so
Sorry
much
about
money,
that. That's okay.
it's raining cash, all over the place. But finding those
Yeah, one of
deals
those deals,
is tough. So I just try to not, when I talk to investors, they go, look, man, because they feel the same way, sort of. He's like, man, finding deals right now, it's so hard. And I was like, well, how many properties did you buy with the market downturn? And they're like, none. I should have. And I was like, well, why didn't you? And they go, well, I didn't have any money. And I go, nah. You know, so it's always going to be something.
Yeah. I mean, I think we bought 10 acres.
I mean, some
They
people
were
did.
giving them away.
Yeah, and some people did, for sure.
8, yeah, I think definitely.
Some people did, but most people didn't. And
Oh,
it's because
sure, they're
the
unloading
cash
them.
wasn't there, and getting a loan back then was
Warren Buffett said at that time,
impossible.
the single greatest investment was a single family home.
And I didn't know Buffett, yeah, I know in the stock market, they always say, hey, get in when everyone else is getting out. Yeah, and I didn't know Buffett said that, but maybe he did.
Yeah, well, I remember when I heard that. I think I was in my finance class in college, and we had he was a former one of the C-suite guys at Best Buy was our professor, and so I just loved this guy because he was like, the academic stuff was great, but like, let me tell you, real world. I'm like, okay, you're my guy. He shared with us that quote, and it was right as the stock market was going through all that. Lehman Brothers was doing their craziness and all that jazz, and I took to heart when he said that. I thought about it critically. And I was also listening to all the news reports that the government's bailing out this business, bailing out this business, bailing out this bank, bailing out this bank. And what I heard was, so what you're telling me is, these investments have just been insured. What you're telling me is, I can buy stock in Wells Fargo and have peace of mind because the government's not going to allow them to fail.
Too big to fail.
I went far riskier. I bought Citi.
But so I bought Wells, and I wish I'd had more money to invest at the time.
Yeah.
But then based on their track record, I doubled down when I did have more on Bank of America.
Oh yeah, no, I went full risk because Citi was dying, and people were like, "Is the government gonna bail it out?" And I was like, "I bet they are. Let's go."
Ford would have been another one that they bailed out, and then now it's come back, right? So to me, it's interesting, and I watched a documentary on Warren Buffett maybe a month or two ago, and all he does is he just stays up on current events and he looks for opportunities. He puts pieces of information about this industry together with pieces of information about this and this, and he like sees opportunity. And I was like, man, if only I had the time to do that kind of stuff, right?
He really talked about his missed opportunities too, and I love that about him.
Yeah.
He's very
Right
humble.
there.
He talks about-
Berkshire Hathaway had no idea it was like the name of one of the first companies he bought way back in the day.
Yeah.
Boring.
Oh, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
He hates it. He hates the company. That's the best part about that.
Same house.
Same house. Yeah.
He's been there like 35 years.
Yeah, I think longer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's been forever and ever.
Yeah, he's an interesting.
You can drive by it. There's no huge wall around it or whatever. But yeah, my sister lives in Omaha.
It's always interesting to hear him talk about Coke and why he invested in that and the brand and how powerful of a brand it is. And it's just really interesting. But then I look at, like, to me, I'd always thought, well, yeah, the stock market, that was great if you could find like your Googles and your Amazons or whatever's that were, when you bought them back 10 years ago. Then, like, I was reading an article this morning. It's like Apple stock, they said it had appreciated 40% this last year. It's almost a 50% increase. That's nuts. It's still happening.
It's nothing.
Right, but it's still happening. That just goes to show if you're investing in some of these businesses, they're still seeing really, really good returns out
I
there.
bought NVIDIA a couple years ago.
See, I don't even know what it is. That's how hot.
Video card company.
There you go.
And everyone's talking yesterday.
It cracks me up when you bought the railroad. I just thought, man, how many accountants do you get counting railroad ties to figure out what that sucker's worth? I mean, geez Louise. Blows my mind.
Yeah. I was talking with Ethan last week, and I said, this is what I'm feeling, down on myself, like, oh, it's tough. So I gotta think to myself, all the people, 100, 150 years ago that built the empires that they did without the internet,
Right.
without all the means that we have available to us that make business so easy. It's like, honestly, I've got no excuses. It's easier now than it's ever been historically to get out there and get after it. It's just, are you doing it or not? Okay. Is it 11:15 yet? Oh. Not yet.
3 minutes.
Is everyone here going to the rally on Thursday?
What
I
rally?
thought there was a rally today.
That's an announcement,
The CMAR rally?
similar to a rally.
Is it the real estate rally this
Yes.
Thursday already?
What does
This
that mean?
Thursday.
No,
Well,
Again,
I didn't
you-
have
You
to-
might not have heard because you're a Lara guy.
I usually go to that.
Oh,
I absolutely
cross.
love it, but I missed the early sign up. How much does it cost if you still wanna go?
I don't know, I think it was 39 or 40.
Oh, that's pretty cheap. They've got good speakers again
Right,
this
and
year
then you
and
get
some
your
great.
continuing ed.
Well, I'm already done with that. Oh, I did all mine in October, but it's still got some really good, interesting topics
Right.
again this year. And their speakers are always
Yeah.
so,
Mhm.
usually,
At the.
they're so
event
much
center-
fun to
event
listen to.
center, by the airport.
It's entertaining as much as educating.
Is
Have you ever
anyone
gone to a
else-
real estate rally in Rochester?
It's
Not in
from,
Rochester.
what time is it from?
Are
Like
you-
9 to
Are
5:30?
you gonna be
Yeah, I
here at
think
1 o'clock? Oh, that's right, you've got it. Are you gonna be here at 1 o'clock?
Me?
Potentially, yeah.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Will
here.
you remind us to make an announcement about that?
Yes,
Thanks.
So the rally today or whatever is not till 1.
it's
1
Thursday.
o'clock, 1 p.m.
The rally today is at 1, yeah.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Well, we're
It's
not.
just
doing
an announcement,
It's just an announcement.
just an announcement.
Okay. There's no big party or.
Well, there's a party, hence the decorations. There'll be food, champagne, cake.
Are you kidding?
No,
You're
seriously.
missing a whole bunch of stuff.
Of all days that I actually have an appointment.
That's
Not
a
always
good problem
works.
to have, Cindy. It's a good problem to have.
But it always works that way. Everything falls at the same time on the same day.
It happened to me last week, and thankfully I called in some favors and juggled some stuff on Thursday. Sometimes you get one arm doing this and the other arm's over here doing this, and if they don't know what each other's doing, then you get double or triple booked. Not good.
Say, Cindy, does it start at 9 or 8:30?
I think it's 8:30. I'll have to double
Because I
check.
always thought it started earlier. I always thought I got there like at 8, milled around, signed up. I mean, you know, because you get to pick your classes when you get there.
Right.
Have a little donut and coffee.
Right. I just want to know, like, who's coming to sit with.
I might.
Okay.
Let me check into it this afternoon. Maybe I'll still do it if it's only, and can you verify the price?
Yeah, go to CMAR to sign up.
Because if I talk about it at 1, do
Is
you think it's 39 bucks?
Trudy and
We
Carrie,
still try
those guys go?
Sign up?
Probably.
Trudy and Carrie and those guys?
I haven't asked them.
That strikes me as something I'm good to go to.
Supposed to be good content.
Well, and then in their one conference room, you go around and you sign up for prizes and they all give away stuff. And you've got lenders there, advertising people there, Home Pro. I mean, it's just all your connections for your business are there that you can visit with and grab business cards and have conversations with.
All right, 11:15, let's make it happen. Page 28. So we've done a great job talking and coaching you guys about how to, you know, if somebody's reaching out to you, they're a buyer, phone call, internet lead, at an open house, happy hour, networking, whatever. We know that if they express interest or they have a desire to buy a home, we set the consultation. We've talked about that script, right? If the buyer lead has come to you based on the buyer calling in a certain property and the home happens to be in their price range, make an appointment for them to see the property and have a consultation, right? It's completely okay to do that, and here's what that script sounds like. The property at 123 Maple Street is listed at $249. Let's schedule an appointment to see if it's a good home for you. Would today at 4 work or Saturday at 10 work? Great, let's meet at my office so that while we're out, you can also review other properties that are available for sale. Would that work for you? Right? Because sometimes you'll get that person, they want to see the property. Awesome, great, we can see the home. Come on into the office first. Let's talk about what you're looking for. We'll see if there's maybe a couple others that we should look at while we're out and about. And you have the consultation with them as well. And what do you see? What are they doing very strategically when it comes to their schedule? The agent in this script.
Giving
They're
this
setting
person
the-
a couple times to meet with them.
Yeah, they're not doing what most agents normally do, which is give the prospective client or sometimes the stranger carte blanche
Yeah.
with their schedule. Great, when does it work for you to see it? 11 p.m. Oh, that's creepy. No, just kidding. Right? No, if you say what works for you, they're going to say what works for them. There's no guarantee it's also going to work for you, right? Then you miss an announcement at 1 p.m. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. That was a short turnaround. What you do is you say, you look at your schedule and you say, hey, I can meet this between this window on this day or this window on this day, and let them know. That helps you safeguard and protect your schedule a little bit too. There's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes we think, well, we can't necessarily do it that way. We need to be available. No, if you give them a couple days and times at work, perfect. That's what most people expect. That's a very reasonable thing to do, all right? Buyer referral, they can use that script over there. It's demonstrating value. It's more focused on homes. If you come in, we can look at the homes for sale. I can show you homes and different options. I like to more so talk about education and the game plan that I can help them come up with things of that nature. So, consider both and do whatever works best for you. The tip at the bottom of that page, when you have the consultation, it positions you as a professional, allowing you to take charge and direct the process. Make your life easy. Take charge of the process. Take charge of it. Direct it from start to finish. If you leave it up to them or to the other agent or to whoever, somebody will step in and take charge, and then you're going to be kind of at their mercy. Say, no, this is how it's going to be from here on out, right? And if you have that consultation, you've got a great chance of representing that individual and picking them up as a client. Page 30, buyer consultation. The 3 things we want to do: dive into their needs and their wants, basically do a needs analysis on our buyers, showcase the service and the value that you have to offer, and obtain a signed agreement. 3 things, very simple. Susan, what is it that you're looking for? How can I help you? Here's what I bring to the table. Let's sign. Ben, what are you looking for? That's awesome. Here's how I can help you. Let's sign. Ethan, what is it that you're looking to do? What's your timeline? Fantastic. Here's what I can do for you to help you achieve that goal. Let's sign. Those are the 3 main things you're looking for, right? I'm on page 30, I'm sorry. Page 30. The buyer consultation is what the customer experience is all about. You're devoting your full attention to them. It shows that you care deeply about finding the right home for them. You're bringing your complete skill set to the table, which demonstrates your ability to provide the kind of expertise and perspective that will allow them to achieve their goals. The buyer consultation is it is without a doubt the most critical point when working with buyers, because it's how you turn your appointment into assigned buyer representation. And it allows you to set expectations. The buyer consultation, hands down, by far, the most critical aspect of it. And I think I shared with you guys last week that my drunk monkey was that this consultation, it might be costing me business because I'm forcing people to meet with me, when in reality we got feedback from people that said, no, we've talked to other agents, the reason we're hiring you is because of the consultation. Because you informed us of our options and we're leaving here knowing what's going to happen next and what we should be doing, right? So when you look at page 31, it's got a guide to buying your home. Bob, when you searched for it, did you find it? Perfect. So go to KW Connect, you search for the titles of these documents, they'll show up, you can use them, they're all editable, right? A guide to buying your home. I usually give this with them as when they're leaving, some sort of guide to home buying. It's their takeaway, they can read it on their own time, it's kind of their thing. I brand the heck out of it. It's got me, the logo, contact information in there, but it's really more of a takeaway for me. I'm not going to sit down and go through it page by page. I'm going to go through my PowerPoint instead. But it's nice because it does. If you look at pages 32 and 33, it talks about kind of your skill set, your accomplishments, what makes you the professional, what you provide to them on page 33. Moving to page 34, it breaks down the 6 steps to buying a home. Now we're getting into educating them. That carries over to page 35 as well. You go to page 36, we're talking about the pre-approval process, the mortgage, all that fun stuff. Again, educating, setting expectations, laying the foundation for what it's going to look like moving forward. Page 7 kind of talks about the process in a nutshell. Page 38 covers making an offer, what that looks like, the down and dirty of what that's going to kind of entail. Page 39 talks closing. Now, my approach to this is all high level. High level. I'm not looking to get into the weeds with you on this stuff because I don't have that kind of time. I don't know if you're gonna work with me yet or not. And really, we don't need to go into it in any more depth than just a cursory overview. This is what you're getting into, this is what you can expect, you have questions, right? And then as we move through the process, it gets a little more detailed, obviously, as we're working from one step to the next, right? But what is this also doing? What is this also demonstrating to them as you're going through all this stuff?
That you're prepared as.
That you know what you're talking about. That you know what you're talking about, right? And chances are, especially if they're first-time home buyers, this is all new to them. Or they understand it in principle, but they don't understand it in just a little bit more detail. So when you do this, it adds to your credibility. They view you as a professional. They start valuing your expertise and realize, we probably want to work with Debbie because she seems like she knows what the heck she's doing. More so than that creepy for sale by owner guy we met. No, I'm just kidding. Aren't all for sale by owners creepy? No, I'm just kidding. Well, most of them are. No. I'm just having some fun. I'm always worried that like 10, 20 years from now, these videos are going to resurface and just publicly shame me. Right? Like,
There's an attorney watching right now.
Right. Yeah. That Team Lucky Duck guy, he's just crooked. No, I love people. I love helping people. We're just having fun. I said that for the recording. Okay. Page 40, closing costs. Explain the concept of closing costs right now. Because if I just went out and asked the general public, hey, when it comes to buying a house, what are closing costs? You're going to get all kinds of different answers. Here's the one that you're really going to get different answers on. Who pays them? That's the right answer. But some people like adamantly, well, the seller pays them. Well, the buyer pays them. It's like, well, how do you know? It's all depending upon the market, the property, the negotiating, everything that you need to do. So there's no rule of thumb. People will just ask, well, who pays closing costs?
And they come to me, what am I getting back for taxes?
I don't know. Right. As long as they're not asking, well, who's going to pay my taxes for me?
Well, I always start with the meaning, how much do you want back? And that's a bad joke.
No, I like it.
All of it.
Yeah.
So here's a script that you can utilize. Mr. Buyer, before we tour homes, let's discuss closing costs. Generally, if you put 20% down on the house, you can expect your closing costs to be an additional 3% of the purchase price. So if you were purchasing a $200,000 home, the down payment would be roughly $40,000, and the closing cost would be an additional $6,000 for a total of $46,000. If you put down less than 20%, your closing cost may be as high as 4%. Okay, so we know enough to be dangerous about closing costs, but if somebody wants to ask me detailed questions about closing costs, what trick are you going to use that I just talked about earlier?
That'd be a great question for your
A
lender.
phenomenal question for your lender, right? Or, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's what I've done. I know that this property we're going to go see this evening is really of high interest to you. Just to let you know, I've already reached out to your lender and let them know if we were to make an offer at the list price, what kind of closing costs we need to ask for, right? Because here's what we have to remember about our lenders, and this gets back to the joke I made about them before. Our hours are crazy as realtors, right? Are most lenders out and about at 8 p.m. working with clients?
Oh, they're home at about 4:30.
Yeah.
If they went into the office at all. No, just kidding. The good ones are at least semi on call, right? Or do them a favor and set them up for success. If Ethan is the lender on a deal I'm working, and I know I'm going out with Susan, my client, who's probably going to put an offer on this property that we're going to see at 7 o'clock, sometime during the business day, I'm going to let Ethan know, hey, could you do me a favor? Would you send me a pre-approval letter updated with this property address just in case we decide to make an offer on this one? And oh, by the way, what should I be asking for in closing costs, right? Because now, when she tells me to pull the trigger, I'm gonna have everything I need to do it. Versus trying to reach Ethan, he's at the Vikings game crying because we lost. No, I'm just kidding. He can't put things together because he's busy, or I just can't reach him because he's doing what he does on his off time, which is life, right? So help them be successful. And sometimes you'll find lenders that are just awesome and say, hey, I know we're coming up, it's the weekend, I'm just gonna shoot you an updated pre-approval letter for so-and-so in case you go find any properties this weekend. I'm like, God, I love you, right? I love your positivity, right? So help you and your client succeed as well. But when it comes to closing costs, I'm always deferring to the lender, or at least on the front end, I'll say, hey, this is the price point we're talking about. Is there a certain percentage I should be asking for? Keep it in mind. And just use that when you're moving forward making offers with them. Two options for buyers who may not have enough money for closing costs. Ask the sellers to cover the costs, or ask the sellers to roll them on top of the loan But again, you could potentially run into some appraisal issues, just something to keep in the back of your mind, right? Frequently asked questions, that's another part of the home buying guide. A little bit about yourself. This would be a great place for testimonials. Above and beyond talks a little bit about customer service, and then, oh, notice the last page talks a little bit about your company, right? Notice it's not the first page. Notice it's not half of the booklet. It's one page at the very end, right? So again, we know that people want to work with you because they like to trust you, and we as a company help you do everything you can do to set the appointment and lock them down as a client. Oh, by the way, some of this will feed into the big announcement at 1 o'clock. Oh, by the way, you happen to be working with a pretty phenomenal real estate company as well. Close for agreement. There's a couple of different scripts you can utilize. Here's an easy one. Hey, I'll ask in exchange for my superior customer service and expertise is a promise that you agree to work with me exclusively. Does that sound fair? That's if you just want to go right after it. Here's another one. What we're going to do now is sign the buyer representation agreement, which puts me to work for you. I usually incorporate that phrase. It allows me to get to work for you. I like that because most people are like, hey, I like people working for me. You're going to work for me? Let's do it. I like that. I like the idea of people getting to work for me. That sounds like a good thing, right? Hey, this one allows me to get to work for you. And then the third one says, it allows me to represent you and look out for your best interests. Hey, this form, it allows me to get to work for you. It allows me to look out for your best interests. I can start doing things like blah, 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 blah. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But here's what we sometimes fail to do as agents. We don't connect the dots with the consumer and explain to them why it's relevant to them. Hey, by signing this agreement, it allows me to represent you. What's the so what? What is that? Okay, you can represent me. What are you now my elected official? What does that mean? You get to represent me. It means I get to do a bunch of stuff for you, usually for free. I'll protect you during negotiations. I'll start getting you out on showings. I'll help you do this, this, or this. You know, explain to them exactly what they get as part of representation. Really sell it. They get a lot of stuff, do they not? Get a lot of stuff, right? So help them understand what exactly they get when they agree to be represented by it. Makes it that much easier to commit. Next few pages have a couple of different scripts that you can utilize for some questions that they might ask. We'll take a look at those, see if you like them or if you want to tweak any of them at all. Page 7, needs analysis. This is really just kind of asking them, what are you looking for? What's your timeline? You know, are you already pre-approved? What's your budget? I like to ask, you know, where do you work? So that gives me an idea of, because sometimes they won't think of areas or cities that might also be in the mix geographically, and you have to help them realize, especially if they're not from the area. But we just moved here from California, okay, and you know, I work in St. Paul. Okay, so you probably don't know what cities you should consider. So let me tell you a few that you might want to look at, right? Okay, let's move into the buyer consultation. So page 55 says your turn, but what I'm going to do is go through what I've used for years and kind of walk and talk you through it. So I'm going to shut off the lights so you guys can see it, and we'll power through it. Questions are welcome anytime, and let me set the stage for you on this. So what usually happens is somebody's called, they've been referred, they're a brand new call, or randomly called, whatever. I'm going to use this script to set the consultation. Brad, would you role play with me? Sure. So let's say Brad, he was looking at a home online. Somehow I got his phone number. I'm going to call him up. Ring, ring. Hello? Hello, is this Brad?
This is.
Hey, Brad, this is Zach over at Keller Williams Realty. How are you?
Good.
Hey, I just wanted to call you, take a minute to thank you for registering to look at homes on our website.
No problem.
Yeah. So, Brad, what is it that you're looking for in a home?
Oh, I need a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, preferably close to Rochester.
Okay, awesome. And do you kind of have a timeline in mind? I mean, ultimately, when would you like to be in your new home?
We need to buy something in the next 6 months for sure.
Okay, sounds good. And do you already have a price point in mind?
I'm thinking under 300,000.
Okay, perfect. Well, Brad, here's what I'd love to do. I'd love to offer you a chance to come into the office, meet with me. We can talk a little bit about what the market's doing, about the process to buy a home. I can answer your questions and really help you formulate a game plan that will allow you to be successful. Would that be helpful for you?
That sounds like that would be very helpful.
Awesome, and thank you for playing along, Brad. So that's how we set the initial consultation, right? So now I got captured his information as part of that. I emailed Brad, said, Brad, It was great talking to you on the phone today. Look forward to meeting you tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the office. Here's the address. I'll see you then. Right? He walks in. I've already given Nikki my sheet. She's got the clipboard. Brad walks in. Ding! No, I'm just kidding. Hope she doesn't have to ring the bell. Hey, how are you? Welcome. I'm Nikki. I'm here to meet with Zach. Fantastic. Please, if you have a moment, sit down, fill this out. Would you like any coffee, water? I'll grab Zach when he's free. I'll come meet with you. Nikki comes, gets me. I'm watching. See that. I come. Hey, Brad, Zach, how are you? Thanks so much for coming in. Have they offered you any coffee or water yet? Okay, awesome. Come on in. Now we're in the conference room. I got the PowerPoint on the TV screen, and we're diving into it. Okay, so let's set the stage. Hey, Brad, thank you so much for coming out. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you, kind of have an idea with what you're looking to do. What we're going to do is kind of talk through the home buying process, really answer any questions that you might have, and kind of help you understand how we operate as well. And then I'll have a conversation with you about what exactly it is you're looking for, and we'll kind of go from there. Sound good?
That sounds good.
Awesome. All right, but before we get into any of that, Brad, what I want you to understand is questions are welcome at any time. And this consultation, this entire period, is focused purely on education. I'm not here to sell you anything. Only you can decide whether or not you want to buy a home. My job is really threefold: is to educate you about the home buying process and the market, to advise you along the way and about your options, and to protect you when it comes to contracts and negotiation, right? So I just want to make sure that you understand, this isn't an opportunity for me to sell you on anything. I'm really just here to educate you about the market process. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, what did I do right there? Yeah, what I did is I just took a little bit of the funkiness right out of the room. Right, I just let Brad know, hey man, this isn't going to be a weird sales pitch for me as your agent. This is going to be purely educational. We're really looking just to kind of help you out with figuring out what your options are, explain to the market. Right? I set that stage from the very beginning. Okay, so the home buying process is really broken down into a few phases. The first one is getting pre-approved. The second one is actually once you know what your budget is or what your parameters are, going out looking at homes. Once you find the home for you, we make an offer, do some negotiating. That offer will be either accepted or declined, which will start a next series of events. And ultimately, you close on the home, which means you purchase it and you get to move right in. So let's talk a little bit about pre-approval. Hey, Brad, have you already been pre-approved?
I have been.
Okay, perfect. Now, guess what? My consultation on this portion is going to be a little bit faster now, right? Because he just told me he's already pre-approved. That's awesome. I love it when they say that. Now, sometimes they say, no, we haven't been yet. I say, awesome, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to you a little about pre-approval, that process, what your different options are. And then if you need to, or if you need me to, I'll even put you in touch with some lenders that can help you with the pre-approval process. They can look at your specific situation and make some recommendations to you about different financing options, okay? So pre-approval is crucial. And just so you know, when you go through the process, lenders are going to ask you for a bunch of information. They're going to ask you for copies of your W-2s, your tax statements. They're going to ask you for your social security number. It's not because they're worried that you're a terrorist. It's just because nowadays, based on what happened a few years ago, people are really being diligent about doing all that work on the front end, right? That's my lame attempt at a joke. Usually they get a chuckle at that point, right? Or I get nervous when they don't laugh. I'm like, should I be calling the FBI right now? Brad, there are really two different main types of financing out there. One of them is called conventional financing. Now, typically, there's a lot less fees. It requires usually a minimum of 5 to 20% down. Sometimes you can get a little bit better of an interest rate. That's really all you need to know about that. The other popular option is called an FHA loan. It's a government-backed loan, usually about 3.5% down. Slightly more fees involved with that one. If you go conventional, you usually have to have a little bit better of a credit score than you were if you were to go FHA. Any questions about that? Again, high overview. I'm not getting lost in the weeds here. They just need to know you're probably going to be either doing conventional or FHA. Brad, have you ever served in the military? No. Okay, not even going to talk about VA. If they have, I'll say, okay, great. What you might be eligible for is VA financing, which is a 0% down product. Blah, 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 blah. I'll talk a little bit about that if I need to. I'll explain to them, if you decide to go this route, you're going to need to obtain a certificate of eligibility with your lender through the VA. They're going to require a copy of your DD-214, and that will determine whether or not you're eligible for that benefit, right? Again, what about, like, when you hear me say those few things, what do you think? Like, what's your takeaway? Me as a professional.
knowledgeable.
This guy knows what he's talking about. He just rattled off certificates of eligibility, DD-214s, the benefits, working with the VA. Who is this guy? I like what I'm hearing, right? This is design. This is the dazzle. Just dazzle, right? In a very professional way. Talk about eligibility. Okay, now Brad, here's what I also want you to understand, because sometimes people don't get this information, and it's absolutely critical. It's important for us to understand how a mortgage is structured, right? Because in addition to paying your mortgage payment, you can pay probably a little bit of PMI, your property taxes, and your homeowner's insurance. So when you're having conversations with your lender and they say your payment will be X amount, what you need to always ask them is, does that estimate include taxes and insurance? Because there's a big difference between your lender saying yeah, your mortgage payment's going to be $1,200, but then by the time we factor in insurance and taxes each month, it pushes you closer to $1,500 or $1,600, right? Folks, this is getting lost in communication with people every day. The lender is saying, yeah, your payment is this, but they're not telling them what the total inclusive payment is going to be. Why do you think that is?
They look better. They think that their numbers are better.
$1,200 sounds a lot better than 15 or 16, doesn't it? And sometimes it's not that purposeful. They're just communicating to you. I think, Becca, all I think you're asking me is what your mortgage payment's going to be, right? We forget as realtors and lenders that we know way more than the general public. We take for granted sometimes what they don't know. Yeah, your payment will be $1,200. Obviously, she's going to factor in homeowners insurance and taxes. Not obviously. Not obviously. And when is she going to find that out? No. At closing, when they ask you to sign a document that says your payment is $1,600, you were expected to see $1,200. Do you think that goes over well? No. Do you think? How do you think they feel about that lender? I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Fired you up.
Don't they send 3 days before your close of disclosure?
It gets sent to you in theory 3 days before to review. But do you think people even know what they're looking for on these documents? Most realtors don't even know what they're looking for on these documents, let alone our clients. All they know is, hey, my lender told me my payment's supposed to be $1,200. Everything's good. Let's make it happen. Then they show up and they're like, holy smokes, okay, my payment is $1,200, but I got some taxes here. I got some homeowners insurance. That's news to me, right? I thought that was already included in my estimate. So I talked to them about that. This is really important for first-time home buyers too, as I let them know, hey, here's the deal. You need to understand you're going to have your mortgage payment, but as part of that mortgage payment, that escrow account, it's including taxes and it's including some homeowners insurance as well. That's value. That's education, right? Brad, here's the deal. Have you ever rented before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and Brad, when you were renting, did you pay utilities in addition to your rent, or was it included?
I paid utilities.
Okay, great. So you kind of know what to expect when it comes to utilities and stuff like that. Sometimes people, first-time home buyers especially, they've never paid utilities. They've got no idea. They've just been paying rent and it was included. They don't know that when you become a homeowner, you got some utilities. What do utilities on average cost people a month, do you think?
$200 to $300.
A few $100, a couple hundred, a few $100, right? If all they're thinking is my monthly payment's going to be $1,200, they're not factoring into account things like utilities. It's really going to push them closer to 15 or 16. That might be big news, right? Add to that a double whammy. Well, we told you your payment was $1,200, but really everything is about $1,500. Oh, by the way, you didn't realize this, but you're going to have utilities, which are about $200 to $300 on top of that. All of a sudden, you're taking me from $1,200, which I felt was comfortable, close to $2,000 monthly. Do you think it's much better to have an idea of all this stuff on the front end? Think it makes your job as the agent easier? Do you think you avoid a lot of difficult conversations as a result? Absolutely. That's what this whole consultation is designed to do. To help, it truly is designed to help them formulate a game plan that will allow them to be successful. Let me educate you. Let me set some expectations. The whole purpose of the consultation, it's very selfish. It's a very selfish thing for me as the agent. I'm trying to make sure that my transaction goes as smoothly and easy as possible by doing all this work on the front end. And it only takes me about 45 minutes to an hour. All right, the whole purpose of this is to mitigate headaches down the road. It just happens to have the additional benefit of being super valuable to them, right? In terms of educating them or giving them a chance to ask some questions. Great. So once, okay, I should step back. I talked about utilities, then I talked about phone, internet, some additional expenses I might keep in mind. Ultimately, you might want to budget for furniture. Okay, don't go out and just go ahead and buy some furniture and finance it right away before closing. Wait till you close on your property. That's kind of where I talk about that piece to safeguard against that. Same with the car, right? So just helping you really understand from a budgeting standpoint what homeownership really means. And do you think this gains me some credibility with them? Absolutely. So now here I kind of push the pause button because I want this to be just me talking the entire time. Here's where I flip over the sheet and I usually say something to the effect of, okay, well, here's why I stop talking and you get a chance to tell me what it is you're looking for. So where are you looking? What kind of property are you looking for? Style, beds, baths, what works for you in terms of showings? Here's kind of how we approach that. And it really turns into maybe a 5 to 10 minute dialogue about what it is they're looking for in a property. And sometimes they need some help and some suggestions as well. And if this is another good chance for me, if somebody says, well, here's the deal, Zach, I'd love to be in a single family home in Rochester for about $150,000. What do you think I'm going to tell them?
You better have pretty low expectations.
That's exactly. I'm gonna manage expectations. Now I'm gonna say, Ethan, here's the deal. I'm glad you brought that up. At $150,000 in the market we're in right now, it might not necessarily be a single family home. You might be looking more at townhomes in Rochester at that price. If you're lucky, right? We're talking south, Stewart, but no, I'm just kidding.
Charles area.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe the house just needs a lot of love.
Absolutely, but you're going to set the expectations. Okay, well, Ethan, so based on that, how important is it to you that the home is move-in ready? Well, not at all. I happen to be a general contractor. I'm very handy. I'm like, oh, thank God. But you're helping set the expectation. Okay, well, here's the deal. That's going to be hard to find. We might not be looking in Rochester. We might have to expand our search a little bit, look at some of the outlying areas as well, based on that price point, right? What's that?
It's an Elgin and
Yeah.
Millville.
Right. Have you considered Iowa?
Is a roof important?
Yeah, right. So what we're doing is I use this as an opportunity. If a difficult conversation needs to happen, I do it right away. Right? So I don't want to lead them on, and nor do I want to be going and showing homes that either don't exist or are just terrible if it's not going to be a win-win for them, right? So use this. This is my reality check with them. You guys hear me talk a lot about sellers and whether or not they're within the realm of reason. Well, this is my check to see if buyers are within the realm of reason. Is what you're saying computing with the market right now? Right? Or is what you're looking for going to be achievable and doable? Right? And if it's not, I'll coach you and let you know. Yeah, it might be achievable, but these tweaks or things might have to change in order to help it be achievable. Right? Either that, or here's my suggestion. Immediately following this meeting, I need you to go stop at Quick Trip, buy yourself a lottery ticket, and do some praying, because that's going to help our chances. Give us more options. Okay, now here's the deal. Once you found a house that you like, a series of things are going to happen. We're going to do a couple of things like confirm that the title is clear, work with your title company to do that, ask questions like, are there any liens on the property, confirm boundaries, are there any assessments or pending assessments, is there an association we have to be concerned about, are there any bylaws that we need to be aware of, if it's a condo or a townhome, what are the dues, blah, 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 blah. What do you think the whole purpose of this slide is? Education. It's really educating them on why they need me. Because they're like, okay, other than that lovely lady I know who is Susan Lean, I've never heard the word liens before. So what really is that? I don't know what that means. Assessments, what is that? This all sounds a little bit scary because I don't know what it means. You don't have to worry about it. That's why you have me. That's why you hire me, right? So just help them understand. Or if they kind of do know about this stuff, like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. Fantastic. Now we know what we're on the lookout for. It's a way to demonstrate the value you bring to the table. Here's the deal. Once you found the house that you like, we'll go ahead and we'll usually meet right back here, and we'll go over a purchase agreement, help you submit an offer. Now, once you make that offer, the sellers likely will or could counter your offer, and you can counter them back, or that can go. You can go back and forth as many times as it takes to either reach an agreement or decide to go your separate ways. There's earnest money involved. I explained to them what earnest money is. I set an expectation regarding repairs. We're really not going to discuss repairs until we have our home inspection, Because every once in a while, you have people that want to make an offer and then start negotiating repairs. It's, no, that's shown in your price initially, right? In my humble opinion. And then if you want to start talking repairs and stuff like that, we're going to do that during your home inspection period. Appliances, hey, most oftentimes appliances stay with the property. About 8 times out of 10, the washer and dryer, my experience, will stay as well. The other 20% of the time, they may decide to take their washer and dryer with them. That's just something we're going to have to ask about. I'll write it into the purchase agreement. I'm setting an expectation right there because I've been burned by that one before. Furniture, when we make an offer, our offer is really not going to include any furniture. That's something that you and the seller can discuss offline outside the transaction if you choose to do so, right? I don't want to get involved in that. I talk about extras. We need to talk about or look for things like swing sets, above and ground pools, etc., to see if you want those things to stay, or more importantly, if you want those things to go, right? Closing date, I kind of talk about that a little bit, and I say we have to decide if your offer is going to be contingent or not. It's more likely going to be contingent upon financing for sure. But the other things we can talk about is inspection, all that fun stuff, right? Educating. Okay, if your offer is accepted, that's great news. That sets into motion another series of events. We have a home inspection. We're looking at the condition of the property, negotiating pay for repairs, pay close attention to roofs, ceilings, foundation, water damage, windows, etc. Basically, Brad, really what we're looking for in a home inspection are any glaring structural or safety issues. If there's cosmetic stuff, that's really not a huge concern. What did I just do right there? That's a pretty huge expectation to get out of the way from the very beginning. We're not looking to do, onesie, twosie,
The paint and
Exactly. That's not the purpose of your home inspection, right? It's looking for, I use this phrases all the time, safety concerns, structural issues, electrical, plumbing, stuff like that. All this other stuff is minor. We're really not that worried about. Be extra vigilant in the winter because you might not know what's under the snow. And oh, by the way, it's really your last chance to walk away if you're uncomfortable. For any reason, you can walk away and get your earnest money back if it's within that inspection contingency. I explained that to you a little bit. If your offer is declined, hey, no big deal. We'll just get right back out there and keep searching, or we'll up our offer and show them that we mean business and see if it entices them to keep working with us, right? Because sometimes this happens, and we've never prepped our people for it. What do you mean they declined? They didn't even counter? No, that's how rude your offer was. Just kidding, right? But sometimes that'll happen, right? So great. It's not the end of the world. You can re-offer, or you just keep looking. What's that?
It happened to be at my house, but they didn't even call me.
Well, yeah, they just said, hey, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, I mean, they came back and we finally got the deal done. But yeah, I think I mean, my agent told them, like, you made a man. I was like, oh, wow.
You're like, good.
Yeah.
So I was hoping you'd say,
Sorry.
sorry, I'm not sorry. Okay, closing phase. We come back to the closing table, and this is when everything gets formalized, financing goes through, the seller gets paid, we confirm title is cleared, it officially transfers to you as a new owner, mortgage payments begin shortly thereafter, you take possession of the home and you can move right in. This is one that got added specifically. I talked a lot about move-in expectations, so I'll say something like this. Brad, when you moved out of that rental, what did you have to do in order to get your security deposit back? You basically had to sterilize the place, right? You were held to a high standard of cleanliness to get that security deposit back, right? But here's the deal: when it comes to selling homes, that doesn't exist. People aren't held to that same standard. To be honest with you, Brad, we're lucky if they get all 6 kids and the 2 dogs out of the house in time for closing, right? Now, Brad, that's not to say I'm going to let you buy a home that's been trashed. We're going to have a final walkthrough. We're going to make sure that it's in good shape. But what I'm telling you to do is this: plan some time during the move-in process to clean the home to your standard. Because Susan, your definition of clean might be very different than Cindy's definition of clean, right? I mean, I know she has a problem. You need to talk about it. I'm just kidding. But seriously, typically, your definition of clean might be very different than the owner's definition of clean. So do yourself a favor. Set that first half day or full day aside to clean the home to your standard. I'm talking about the kitchen and the oven and the refrigerator. I'm talking about the bathrooms. Maybe you decide you want to have the carpets shampooed and cleaned. Build that into your planning process. I'm telling you right now, Lord knows how many things I've probably mitigated when I started adding that to my consultation. That was a little bit selfish.
I don't wanna deal with any of that craziness.
Okay. So, I talked a little bit about current market conditions. It's a seller's property. It's very competitive, blah, 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 blah. Just kind of letting them know what they're getting into. If need be, I don't really talk this. Carly has added this because this is the presentation who I pulled it from. They talk a little bit about prices of homes, monthly payments, just to give folks an idea. It's a great thing. I probably wouldn't get that too detailed. I would surrender that to the lender. Purchasing power. Again, this is just an illustration of the fact that as interest rates go up, so do your payments, right? So you've got more purchasing power right now. And then an explanation of who is who and all that fun stuff. Then a chance to ask questions. What questions do you have? Now, at this point, I'm looking for a very specific question. Sometimes they ask it. I'm going to turn the lights on just as a heads up. Sometimes they ask it, sometimes they don't. Okay? What question do you think I'm looking for?
How soon can we look at houses?
I would love that question. If they're pre-approved. Chances are I've hit just about everything. But what didn't I talk about? Yet.
Oh, your compensation?
Yeah, how much do you charge? Most times people won't ask that. They don't even know. And I'll say, well, this is how I alleviate that. Well, Ben, one question that people often ask is, how much do you charge? So I'm happy to tell you that when I work for you as your buyer's agent, I work for you absolutely free. I don't charge you a thing. Here's how that works. And that's the segue I use to go from the consultation to the paperwork. How did I just tee it up? How did I just frame it?
It's free.
It's free.
It's free.
It's free, right? Because if I just spring a contract on somebody, what's the reaction I'm going to get? How do you?
They kind of, the hands go up.
Yeah, whoa, buddy.
Where's my lawyers?
Yeah, no, thank you. Right? But when you tell somebody, hey, I work for you for free, and here's how, well, now they're kind of like, okay, well, tell me more. How does this work? Right? I am intrigued. Okay. So then I put the agency disclosure in front of them first. I said, the first thing I need to do is go over this form with you. The state of Minnesota requires I go over it with you. It's just a disclosure. It's not an agreement. It explains to you what I owe you as a licensed real estate professional. I owe you loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care, and accounting. I promise with me you get all that and more. They laugh a little bit. Thank you for laughing. And I also circle this website and say, I also have to make you aware of this website that you can visit to see if there are any registered sex offenders that might live by any of the properties that you could potentially be interested in. And I also need you to initial right here saying I made you aware of that website. That's all I say for that. Decide. Good. Okay. All right. This next form is a representation agreement. Now, this form allows me to get to work for you on your behalf. I can do things like start scheduling showings, get you into properties, negotiate on your behalf, all the things that you would need a great agent to do for you. What are the few things I just clued in on when I explained to them what it allows me to do for them?
Show houses.
Allows me to show you homes. What do people want more than anything? Want to see homes. They want to see homes. This form allows me to show you homes. Let's call it what it is. If you want what I got, this form allows me to give it to you. Right? That's what I'm equating it to. We have to help people understand. This form equals you getting in homes. Right? And oh, by the way, it allows me to start doing things like negotiating on your behalf, etc. Right? Awesome. Yeah,
Allows me to get to work
allows
for
me to
you.
get to work for you. The broker's name goes in here. I do all my contracts for a year. Do whatever you want. But in my experience, some people, they might need a year or more to get into a position where they can buy. So we're going to do a contract for a year. I don't have anybody kick back on that. If they do, I'd say, sure, I'll do 6 months. That's no problem. Right? It's too easy. Here's the deal. I don't charge a retainer fee. Not looking to become Donald Trump, especially not right now. You usually laugh at that one too. It used to be more funny before he was president. Number two, buyer. Thank you for laughing, Ethan. I appreciate it. Sometimes I don't know if I'm offending people when I say I'm just trying to have fun. Buyer shall pay his broker's compensation. I put per MLS in here because that buyer's compensation varies depending upon the listing, right? Be 2, 2.5, 3, 4%, 5% if you're selling new construction. Sometimes who knows?
So I was looking at that in La Crosse, it was all a lot 2.4, but some of them had just like flat rate.
Yeah, just like a 1,500,
$1,600
2,000,
or,
yeah.
yeah. And so it's, when the listing agent, that's just completely up to them, or?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they, some of them just kind of being dicks, or what? Oops, sorry.
That's okay, it's been recorded, everybody, that was Ben Collins who said that. Just kidding, just kidding. Well, I think you asked, well, I think you said, was the agent's name Richard?
Yeah.
I believe that's what I heard,
Right,
and, Richard has been known for doing that.
Sir Richard.
Yeah, right. But sometimes it has to do with what they took the listing at. I tell you this right now, oftentimes they don't have the conversation with their client that they're doing that. And it's a huge disservice to the client, because what do they just effectively do to the property? If everybody else is paying out 2.7 or 3%, and they're paying 2%, what did they just do?
They took away potential buyers.
They just, well, from an agent,
From an
buying
agent
agent standpoint, you just made the
standpoint, yeah.
property a little bit less attractive, right? You want to be competitive. You want to offer the same, similar compensation if you want to have the same interest in the home. Right? That's a conversation you can have with the sellers. But yeah, but I put per MLS right here because that covers me. Whatever, because my position is this: whatever the compensation happens to be is what it is. I'm not going to ask for more. I'm not going to ask for less. Whatever is compensation for that property, that's what I'm going for. Some people can do it differently. That's fine. That's just how I am, right? And I'm not going to ask my clients for the difference. I just don't think you build a business for a business that way. Or blank, and I put blank in here, but you do what you want to. I'm just telling you how I do it. And then right here I check shall, or excuse me, shall. Any compensation I receive from the seller shall reduce any obligation you have to me, which is again none. You don't owe me anything. All my compensation comes from the seller. When I put per MLS, that's what that means. I get whatever's offered on MLS, that's what I get compensated. It shall reduce any additional obligation you have to me, which is again nothing. The way that I have it structured. Yes, ma'am.
Line 1, that broker's compensation will be per MLS, and line
Great-
2
great
would
question.
be what?
Line 1 where it says retainer fee is a 0.
0.
Line 2, that first blank, I put per MLS.
Okay.
Yep. And then I put a 0 for line 29 as well, and a 0 for line 32. But this is how I run my, you're gonna hear agents give you all kinds of different answers about this, right? My philosophy is this: if you don't wanna work with me, I don't wanna work with you. Let's move on. I'm not gonna force you to pay me more or less. I'm gonna take whatever is offered. If you get paid, that's cool, that's fine. I'm a big picture guy. I'll usually check residential / investment, residential / personal, whichever, or whatever you're gonna help them buy with, that's what that's there for. And then they'll usually almost always initial line 65, buyer wishes to have broker arrange for the closing. Hey, here's the deal. If you check that box, it means I can go ahead and put you in touch with a great title company and they'll facilitate the closing for you. Okay, that sounds good. I don't even know what a title company is. Sometimes I'll ask them, are you, it sounds weird, crazy how I say, are you a foreign person? Hey, for tax reasons, I gotta ask you whether or not you're a foreign person that can have some tax implications for you. Oh, you're not, thank goodness. No, I'm just kidding, don't say that. Oh, you're not, okay, then that won't be an issue. Buyer will agree to a dual agency representation, real estate company in my name. Here's the deal. This means that whether it's listed by my company, another company, whoever, I can show you the maximum amount of properties available for sale if you agree to dual agency. That's that conversation in a nutshell. And if we find ourselves in a dual agency situation, I'll explain it to you and you'll be able to make whatever decisions you want to about whether or not you want to move forward. Right? But here's what people don't understand. Most times they say, oh, dual agency, I think I heard about that somewhere. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to do it. So, okay, great. So you realize what that means is any homes listed by my office, you're saying no to. Well, wait a minute. That's what I thought, right? Help them realize what that really means, right? There's nothing wrong with dual agency at all. It can be managed and done very professionally without any issues whatsoever. Some more information. I usually tell them, hey, from this point forward, except for the first time we make an offer, most signatures are going to be electronic. And this here's where they sign their date. So I'll go through this form. Sometimes they'll just start signing, in which case I'm like, oh, perfect. That's what I'm talking about. But usually I'll end up working through these. Now this is my license and my real estate operation. Well, I shouldn't say mine. My wife really runs it now, right? I'm just a figurehead. I'm just a guy that came up with the logo. But it's at Keller Williams Preferred Realty, not Premier. So this form is going to look a little bit different, but I'm going to go over it with you because we also have a VAC just like this office does. This form explains how that works, right? So seller's disclosure statement, talk to them about if this is a seller or a buyer's disclosure statement, ours is combined. I have them initial right here. Hey, if you initial here, it means I made you aware that sellers don't have to disclose the existence of multiple offers. Almost always they will, because it leads to competition, which leads to more money for the home. But this right here is just me explaining to you that they don't necessarily have to let us know if there are multiples. That's all it is. They sign that. Affiliated business disclosure, we have something like this similar here. Hey, we've got an affiliated business relationship with this title company and this lender. You can choose to work with whoever you want. I just legally have to disclose to you. We've got an affiliated business arrangement with them. Right here. Okay. The BAC one wasn't in there. So basically all I say about that is, hey, I'll have to make you aware of the fact that there is a broker admin commission involved. It's $3.99. That gets paid to the office. It does not come to me. It's not collected right now. It's collected at the time of closing. Yeah, it's used to review your file, make sure it's compliant. It protects you, protects me. And I can usually get it covered as part of your closing costs. No issues. So once I've gone through all that, and I say something like, so, if you're ready for me to get to work here and start doing all this stuff on your behalf, we would just sign this agreement. We can get up and running. And they say, fantastic. And they sign it. If they haven't signed already. You have a quizzical expression on your face, sir. No? Okay. Any questions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, can we get a copy of that?
Yes. Email me, or better yet, write this email address down. This goes for anybody watching as well. If you write down, or if you email Kelly at clientcare@teamluckyduck.com. Ask Kelly for the unbranded version of the buyer consultation, and she'll email you a copy of our unbranded version. That way you won't have to go pull all of our information and everything out. It'll be ready for you. You can tweak it, add it, do whatever you want to it. It's yours. Yep. And if you want to, you can also ask her for the client information form we give out. She'll give you a copy of that as well. And you can use the same exact form that we do.
So is one word Kelly Client Care?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, I apologize. The way I wrote that is confusing. So her name is Kelly. The email address is just clientcare, one word, @teamluckyduck.com.
Kelly Client Care @teamluckyduck.
Nope. Just clientcare
Oh.
that's the email address. But if you want to address it to somebody,
Got it.
her name is Kelly.
Thank you.
To Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Versus, hey you, Zach told me to ask you for this.
See, we would all been getting it kicked back.
Right. Just say, hey Kelly, was in a class Zach taught today. He said we could reach out and ask about the buyer consultation. If you can send me the unbranded version. You don't even have to put unbranded. She'll know to send you the unbranded version. Just ask for a copy of the buyer consultation. So
She knows we don't work for you.
What's that?
She knows we don't work for your team.
Ethan, I share with everybody. I'm a sharer.
And the other one was called the client information form.
Client information form.
And or check if this guy's on the team.
Yeah, it's a good point. Who is this guy?
Client
Mexico.
information.
Yeah, client information form or the check-in sheet.
Or check slash.
Yeah, I should know what you're talking about.
I'm certain that you're going through that, but there's so much value to that PowerPoint that you showed. But a lot of the clients I know are moving up.
Yeah, they're familiar with the process already.
Right.
Yep.
How do you educate them? I mean, there's so much value. Some of them
Yeah.
have bought 30 years ago.
Exactly.
Or 15 years ago.
That's what I do, and sometimes I'll get it on the phone. Oh, we bought a home before, and I'll say, great, that's awesome. So it'll be a lot faster. But the market has changed quite a bit. I want to make sure you're up to date with the market conditions, and that you have a good idea of what you can expect in today's market. Come on in. It'll take maybe 15 minutes.
So it'll be more
Yep, I'll run through some of that stuff. So you're already familiar with getting pre-approved. Yep, okay, awesome. You're already familiar with this. Okay, great. Any questions about that? Let's talk about what you're looking for, because we still need to have that conversation regardless of whether or not you bought before, right? And then I'll hit the high points of the process, and then really it's just coming. Now we're having more of a game plan discussion. What's your timeline? Do you need me to put you in touch with lenders? Let's strategize a little bit about if it's going to be hyper competitive in terms of the properties you're going to be interested in. And oh, by the way, I go into the forms, right? I actually like those appointments because they're usually a lot faster. People know what they're getting into. Or the other added benefit is this, Becca. they say, man, I wish the agent I used last time would have went through something like this at the beginning. And it solidifies that I'm making the right choice.
I bought 3 homes in Rochester.
Really?
I just educated. Most of it was me educating myself
Sure.
through the process.
Yeah, well, and imagine the kind of reputation you get with your people and the people that are referring you, becoming fans of yours, and they realize that this is how you approach it. That's your reputation, right? And I hate that our license says real estate salesperson. It's a pet peeve of mine, right? What we really are real estate practitioners. Just like a doctor practices medicine, just like an attorney practices law, we practice real estate. That's our job. We're consultants, right? At least that's what I'd like to tell myself. Right? So anyway, we've gone over time, so I'll wrap it up there. I gotta get ready for the 1 o'clock dealio. But thanks for coming. I think this is by far one of the best sessions of Ignite. Get dangerous on your buyer consultation. Start doing it. You will blow up your business. You will blow it up. I guarantee it. This doubled my business. So yes, sir.
What you call it?
Buyer consultation.
No, the event that we do.
It's just an announcement, company-wide announcement.
So they'll be in Winona, so if I ran down.
Yeah,
Winona.
it's gonna be announced there too.
Okay.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Zach.
Yeah, no problem.